Welcome to Kranky Live Sports Talk, where passion meets action.
Hey sports fans, I am Kranky, and this is the Kranky Live Sports Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the hottest topics, the biggest games, and the most controversial moments in sports.
Whether it's football, basketball, track and field, cricket, or soccer, we've got you covered with expert analysis, insider interviews, and unfiltered opinions.
Join me as I chat with the biggest names in sports, get exclusive insights and stories you won't hear anywhere else.
Kranky Live Sports Talk is where you can hear the real talk, the hard-hitting questions, and the hottest takes.
So, if you're a true sports fanatic, you don't want to miss out? Subscribe now to the Kranky Live Sports Talk on YouTube and hit that bell icon to never miss an episode.
Kranky Live Sports Talk, where sports come alive. Subscribe today.
Talking to myself, my system is on mute. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kranky Live Sports Talk, where we talk sports, but sometimes we talk politics, and sometimes we talk about life in general. Thanks for being here, Christopher, Chorus, Owen, give me a hard time last night. I'm saying, boy, I'm a lose and I'm not seeing well. I've actually recovered. Actually, I it was a very difficult night. I don't know how. I don't want to take my guess who's going to be joining me, but I don't know how we can support Eva. Somebody sent me this. I'm gonna bring my guess in pretty soon. I'm just saying. Somebody sent me this. I'm trying to find it, which I thought was really interesting. The person said, "I can't believe people are comparing Trump to Satan. Yes, he's evil, but he's certainly not as evil as Trump." That's all I'll say about that. Good evening, Dennis. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you doing, Kranky? I'm good, man.
I'm doing well. Chorus, good evening. Lee Young, Ty, Owen. I expect to get a good supply of guests for today now because you're a guest of importance, and people flock to JFF. Guests are important. When you're on Rudolph, when the Rudolph stuff come on program, but when you're Rudolph, come on, it's a different story. People flock. So over them flocking this evening because we have enough questions for you. Rudolph was my first interviewee. Right? But we didn't just talk JFF. We talk Rudolph mainly. Today, though, we're going to do a combination. We're going to talk Dennis, but we're also going to talk enough JFF. I have so many questions, I'm not sure what to do with all of them. Plus, I'm sure people in the chat will have a lot of questions. And this discussion not about beating the JFF, beating Dennis. To the contrary. It's trying to learn more about Dennis, who Dennis is, what Dennis' background is, why Dennis is in football, what draws you to football, and how you want to make a difference to the sport. And never know a difference that informs that. Yeah. Secondly, I did read your LinkedIn bio because it's the first place I go to when I'm in there. Very, very impressive bio, by the way, people. It looked like he does about 101 jobs. He's on 101 boards. Very, very impressive resume. So let's start from way back when. Dennis. Who is Dennis Chung? You can take it in a direction and I will plug in. It's not your traditional interview, so we just don't come here and talk JFF football. We're talking to the person. Yeah. We don't know who Dennis is.
I started as I still am an accountant.
No, you go back before that. You know, Dennis, you never born an accountant, Dennis. You go before that. You go primary school, you go high school, you're influenced by different people. We have the first half hour is about Dennis. We gotta do the Dennis thing.
All right, so the first recollection I have of myself really was in Mandeville. I went to Manchester Prep, Balear Prep. My father actually worked at Revere. I don't know if anybody know that backside company.
So you come from money. Hey, if you know them thinking of people, you come from money. Hey, Revere. People, we set the stage of people. We have set the stage for early. From money. So all right.
The backside company in Mandeville. You know, at that time, Mandeville was a booming place.
Yep.
So I went to Manchester Prep. I went to Balear Prep. And from there, I actually left in grade 4. I went to Parish and then went to JC after.
So when I was growing up, Prairie and Campion were, to me, the elite schools in Jamaica, academically. Other very good schools, like my alma mater, but Prairie and Campion were total. In fact, I was supposed to go to Campion when I went to Rochester, Kingston, but I had to take the bus versus those Mercedes-Benz. I told my mom, that's not happening. But keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, Prairie was a good school. It was a very good school. I left there in 77. I went to Jamaica College. You know, when you talk about identification with schools, though, you know it's really high school that you identify with.
Yes.
So I spent 7 years at JC because I did up to 6th form there.
Okay.
And then I went to the University of the West Indies. Did my first degree in accounting. Went straight from my first degree and did my second degree in accounting, master's at UA. And then I did the CPA exams out of California. Interestingly, Kranky, I mean, you remember the 1989 earthquake in California?
Yes. Yeah, when they had overpass fell down.
Yeah, man.
A couple hundred people got killed. Yes.
So the epicenter of it is actually where I did my exam 2 weeks after the earthquake. So wow. I'm there. My friend, I have a friend that I went to Jamaica College with, and we're still friends up to this day. From 1977, I've known him. So it was a long time.
Yes,
right?
yes, a long time.
And he was in Miami at the time, in Florida. He did his law degree there, and he came up to see me in Hayward, California, which is across from the Bay, across from San Francisco. And you know, you're driving around and you actually see the houses tilted. During the 2 weeks I was there, we were actually still having aftershocks.
Wow.
You know, I was there alone. Yeah. And driving across to San Francisco, you saw the bridge in the water and all of those things. So, you know, it was really an eye-opening experience to be there 2 weeks after and still having these aftershocks, me alone in a hotel room, you know.
So wait, you could take the CPA. Did you have to come here first and get accredited?
No.
Or you just take it straight?
In California, once you had a master's degree,
from
UA, then you could actually do the CPA in California at the time.
So the exams are equivalent to like the chartered accountant?
Right.
Okay.
Equivalent to the ACCA, right? So it's like a chartered accountant exam. But I joined the Institute of Chartered Accountants here, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants, you can actually get your chartered accountant status with just a master's from UA.
Oh, I thought you had to take an exam. Actually, that's interesting. Okay.
No, the master's is sufficient. So I joined the institute. I became the president of the institute a few years after. In the about 2014, I became the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants for about 2 years. I was actually a member, a director for the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Caribbean also for 2 years after that.
I didn't know they had one for the Caribbean, actually. Yeah,
man, they have one for the Caribbean because the Caribbean, as you know, has unique things about it. And that was an interesting time. We'd have our meetings in Ghana, Florida, Miami. You know, it was an interesting time, all of us coming together. And I've worked in accounting since then until I went to, well, I actually did the Air Jamaica divestment, you know. A lot of people don't know, but I was the one who managed the divestment of Air Jamaica. And I remember my good friend Don Webby was the Minister of Finance. And he called me one day and said, "Boy, Dennis, you know, I needed to do this divestment for me. I needed to manage the divestment for me because we need to make sure the airline is divested." And that's where I met my mentor, Dennis Layla. You know, Dennis Layla from ICWI.
Yeah.
Dennis Layla actually chaired the divestment committee, and I actually managed that divestment. And in 2 years, we divested it to Caribbean Airlines. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about why the airline failed and thing. I mean, and a lot of it is not so. I could, you know, but it ended up saving the government $150 million a year.
So the government was losing money then?
Yeah, man. Government was putting in over $100 million a year to keep Air Jamaica afloat. And what a lot of people don't understand, the airline business is a business that you definitely start as a billionaire and become a millionaire.
So is it a volume business? It's
volume. You have to have volume. So if you look at all the airlines international that actually make money,
right?
The threshold at the time was about 65 aircraft. If you had less than 65 aircraft in your fleet, more than likely you're going to lose money. You know?
Okay.
The cost of keeping an airplane flying was just tremendous. The regulations, and it's there for a reason, you know, because it's there to protect people.
Yeah.
Because, so for example, someone in maintenance, if you do something wrong that causes a crash, you can actually be sent to prison, you know.
Okay.
Right? That's how strict it is. It's a very unique business. I remember I was in Air Jamaica one day and $20 million was sent from the government, and within half hour it was done.
So it's interesting because you would think the routes from Jamaica to the US, for example, would be a very lucrative route if you have the volume, right? And especially so much tourists to go to Montego Bay, for example.
Right. Yeah. If you have the volume, but remember that during the week you don't get a lot of people flying.
Yeah.
A lot of people on weekends. So the weekends have to be enough to make up for it. And every time an airline lifts up, it costs money. Every time an aircraft lifts up.
Between fuel costs and landing costs. Yeah, it's a lot of costs.
It's a lot of money. So I was there, and then I went from there after we divested the airline to Caribbean Airlines. And it was a pretty good divestment. I remember that divestment, I tell people all the while, it was an eye-opener. Because the truth is that at the last minute, the deal was almost threatened. You know, people didn't know that after we had laid off 1,500 people from Air Jamaica. And I had to, it was some serious negotiation up to the last minute just to get it. And you know, we actually end up saving the government $150 million a year. Don Webby, of course, was very grateful. He would have left the government by that time and gone to Grace Kent, gone back, and myself and Dennis later finished it. And that divestment was such an instrumental time for Jamaica because you actually saved $150 million a year, right? Which is a lot of money. Audley Shaw was the Minister of Finance. I remember we finished that divestment 3 a.m. on a Friday morning to ensure that we made the deadline for the Saturday morning for Caribbean Airlines to take over. Arthur Lockjack was the chairman of Caribbean Airlines at the time, right? And we celebrated that divestment at 3:30 a.m. in Audley Shaw's office with a bucket of KFC and some Pepsi.
And they go see some white rum.
Yeah, we had a bucket of KFC and some Pepsi. We went there, Audley he bought some KFC and he bought some Pepsi, and that was the celebration of the divestment of Air Jamaica, you know. When I left there, I went to the PSOJ. Spent 5 years there. Very interesting time because my time at the PSOJ was a time when there was a lot of legislative changes. And very importantly, during that time, it was the time of the IMF agreement. Remember when the country almost dropped off a cliff in 2013?
Yes.
So I was right in the middle of that. right? And
Right.
at the PSOJ, we were very, very close with working with the government, which was Peter Phillips at the time as finance minister. And we worked through the whole thing just to make sure that the thing was success. It was a very stressful time, right? I think Peter Phillips, I mean, a lot of credit is due to him. I say it all the time. Because where we were as a country in 2013, if a lot of people knew where we were and what he did, right, you would understand that if that deal wasn't cut, the whole thing would have fallen off the cliff.
Okay.
Right? So it was a very tumultuous time, very exciting though. We got through a lot of legislative during that time. I was actually on the committee for the PSOJ that wrote the Insolvency Act that Jamaica has now. Right? Wow. I was on the committee that wrote and put in effect the corporate governance code for both the private sector and the public sector. That's there now. Right? So a lot of things happened during that time. And the presidents I had during the time was Chris Saka, William Mahfood, who we're very close now, and PB Scott from Mussons. I remember when William Mahfood was president, a good friend of mine from that time to Butch Hendrickson from National.
Okay.
Butch and William comes to me and said, Dennis, you know, the NSL may have some serious problems. And I said, yes. So William said, well, I just volunteered you as chairman to the Prime Minister.
So wait, may I back up? Are you a fixer then? Have you become a fixer?
I became that eventually.
Yeah.
I became that eventually from Air Jamaica. And I was also, a lot of people don't know this, but there's a company from, that's a subsidiary of JUTC called Jamaica Ultimate Tire, which when I was on the JUTC board, and I was on the board when Douglas Chambers was killed. I was actually a very good friend of Douglas Chambers. And he asked me to chair the Jamaica Ultimate Tire Company. When we took over that company, that board, and the current managing director of JUTC was actually on that board with me, Paul Abrahams. When we took over that company as a board, we were 3 years behind with our financials, and we were losing like $1 million a month. Within a year, we had all our financials up to date, and we were making about $2 to $3 million a month, right? So because of that, and what we have done there, when the government changed from Mike Henry was the Minister of Transport and Omar Davis took it over, Omar Davis actually asked me to stay on as chairman, right? So I stayed on for another few years. I don't believe that anyone should be chairman for a very long time of public companies.
All right.
And then I sort of transitioned to a girl named Natalie. I can't remember her last name. But that company has done very well. I remember the last time I was there, they were up to making like $9 million a month. And why did that happen? I think when the public sector frees us on, we couldn't give our workers any increase. So what we did is we went to the Ministry of Finance and said, okay, we know we can't give an increase, but this is what we want you to approve. Allocate 10% of any profits we make to share up for all the workers. And we got that approved. So while everybody else was on freeze, we went to our workers and said, guys, listen, if you make money, you get 10%. And let me tell you something. I remember we had a guy once. The guy was stealing from the factory, and the workers fired him because he was threatening.
You cut into my bonus, all right?
Yeah.
My arrears, yeah.
That company did very well, right? And it was actually subsidized in JUTC, and we continue to subsidize. I left there. They actually, years after that, they actually had a ceremony and recognized me. The board, the company there. So when I was at PSOJ, they asked me to take over NSW me. So I went to Porsche, Porsche Simpson Miller across the road with William Mafood and Butch Hendrickson. And let me tell you something. Porsche is one of the most charismatic figures you will ever meet in life.
Yeah.
When Porsche hold you and hug you and give you a kiss and ask you something, you can't say no. Let me tell you.
That's why she attained the position she attained.
I have so much respect for that lady. Right? That lady was compassionate and she knew how to deal with people. Right? And Porsche said, you know, I want you to take over the chairmanship of this company. And I said, okay. At the time, the NSW was seen as the most corrupt organization in the country. There's 5 companies in the NSW, and they were all 9 years behind on their audited financials.
Wow.
When we went there, we had no money, right? And when we went there, we said, boy, what we're going to do? We sat down, and I remember the first meeting I went to, and the accountant came in the meeting and said, this is the numbers, this is the financials. And when I looked at it and I said, oh, we have $200 million in inventory. And he said, no, that really doesn't exist. I said, what do you mean? I said, why is it on the balance sheet? He says, well, he has been carrying that figure for a few years. I said
so, wait. So it's not goodwill, it's inventory.
It was nothing.
Well, if it's carrying nothing, yeah, that's interesting.
So I said to him, I said, listen, let me tell you something. I said, turn to my board. And I said, we will manage this company without financials. I said to him, listen, until you fix this, just give me my bank recons. I will manage it based on cash. Right? One thing I asked the Prime Minister for when she was appointing me, I said, I need to have a corporate governance lawyer with me, and I need to have Butch Hendrickson on the board. And I told Butch, I said, Butch, I'm not doing this. I said, you guys set me up. I'm not doing it unless you come on the board. Butch said, okay, and he agreed. And he has been very supportive to me over the years. And then Camille Facey came on as a corporate governance lawyer. To this day, I think is one of the best corporate governance lawyers in Jamaica. But I had asked for Greta Bogues before, and Greta Bogues, who died, she said she couldn't do it, and she gave me Camille. And let me tell you something. Within 3 years of the organization being seen as the most corrupt organization in Jamaica, we were winning, within three to 4 years, we were winning corporate governance awards.
So where did I'm always trying to figure this out, right? Because I struggle sometimes when people say FIFA is corruption and they had auditors. You know, some of the auditors don't audit for fraud sometimes. But I think in the last 10, 20 years, that's changed, right? In terms of how you think about your program. The question arises, if fraud is materializing, is it pervasive throughout the company so it becomes endemic? So it's almost innate to how you operate, or is it in pockets?
Well, there are some companies that it's like a culture. Right?
Okay.
So, I mean, like it becomes so much of a culture that it just seems normal to people in the organization. So I would say NSW was close to that, right?
But how do you do that in Jamaica, where sometimes you may try to do the right thing, but it's perilous to your being?
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
And I know I agree with you. Just like Douglas Chambers was killed.
Exactly. That's my point. Exactly.
He was killed. When we went to NSW, we said, listen, we have to do this because we have an obligation to the taxpayers of this country, and we have to clean this up. So people were telling me, boy, you're going to damage your reputation and thing. And I said, listen, I think there's an opportunity here. I said to my board, I said, there's an opportunity here to do something for the country. And William Mafood said something to me. When I told William what was said, William said to me, Dennis, if everybody complains and does nothing, then nothing will be fixed. He said, somebody has to stand up. And William Mafood, let me tell you something, William Mafood and Butch Hendrickson, right? I love those guys. They stood behind me tooth and nail to ensure that within 4 years, we had our audited financials current for all companies. All years were cleared up. We're winning corporate governance awards. This is a company that broke, right?
Wow.
And let me tell you, the Minister of Local Government, the President, Desmond McKenzie,
right?
I cannot sing him enough praises. So although I'm there as chairman, the support that I get, right? I mean, I can't discount that. The support from William Afu, the support from Butch Hendrickson, from my board, right? Camille Face in particular, who was there with me from day one. The Minister of Local Government, Desmond McKenzie, who never interfered. He never interfered with what we were doing. He just gave us the support. And also, I remember the day when we were hiring Audley Gordon. And the board looked at it. And the requirement for his education for the job was a doctorate, right?
Wow.
And when we looked at it, Kranky, we said, no, we need to solve this thing practically. We said, Audley is the right man for the job, but Audley didn't have a doctorate. So we said, you know what? We're going to go with Audley. And I took some criticism in the press, but I know that the board made the right decision. And Audley has turned out to be the best executive director for that organization. Because when I looked at it, Kranky, when the board looked at it, you think that we could send a very cultured PhD man down to Riverton to start that up? They would have eaten him alive down there.
Yeah.
Right? Because I remember when a security guard, when I went there earlier, a security guard caught someone stealing fuel out of a heavy-duty equipment, and the man killed the security guard. Right? That's the sort of environment we're operating. We had, when we did our internal audit, and Norman Brown, right, who was on the board, he's the chairman of HAJ now. He was the audit chairman. You know that we found trucks there, Kranky, that were 2 years not in service, still taking gas. Right?
Wait. I've always found this interesting. It's almost as if you need to cancel the company and start over.
Yeah.
When you have fraud so embedded, how do you negotiate your way out of that situation?
You negotiate your way out of it by, first, the board has to agree. The minister has to agree also with what you're doing.
Okay.
But you get the right person to head the organization, the day-to-day. And that's why we knew that we had to get Audley. Audley was the right person. He was strong. He knew the streets. He had the political connections to get what we wanted done. And that was key, right, for us, right? In the first, I must tell you, when we approached the thing in the audit, we started cleaning it up. We knew that in the first 2 years, we would take qualified reports. We took the qualified. C.R. Hilton, that audit firm, they were the ones who said, we will come in and we will audit with you.
Now, once again, people, qualified reports mean some things are not right financially in the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Other audit firms refuse. The thing was seen as so corrupt that other companies refuse to audit us.
So you know what damage your reputation as an auditor.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what you're planning on, if that is okay.
But C.R. Hilton took the risk with us. And C.R. Hilton, right, said, we're going to go down the road, right? And they diligently did it until we get everything perfect. To this day, the culture is in place now where everything is up to scratch at that place.
So I'm gonna pivot a little bit here. So you've talked about 3-year plus companies where each company you went into had, I'm gonna call it financial problems, as euphemism, right? Had financial issues. And the issues weren't caused because I'm not profitable based on what I sell or what I buy, operate. It was caused by defalcation of resources.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's the case, is that, and I'm gonna put you in a spot, I'll put you in trouble, but is that endemic in Jamaica? Because if you do 3 companies, everyone you touch is a problem. Is that pervasive?
No, not necessarily. But remember also, that Jamaica is coming, and I've been along that journey. Jamaica is coming from a point where legislation was not global standard. So if you remember the FinSAC era in the 90s,
Right.
and one of the things I must tell you also, when the FinSAC happened, one of the things that I was appointed on a FinSAC oversight commission. So I saw what was happening at the time. When FinSAC happened, we did not have the Financial Institutions Act. So banks could invest capital wherever they wanted. Right? And that is what caused the FinSAC problem, along with the high interest rates, of course.
So Dennis, here's a question for you, Dennis, which is, it's sort of an interesting construct, which is, I've gotten these questions, because I do some stuff outside sports on another channel that I have. One of the questions I got from people is this. In the US, for example, whether it's politicians or people in financial services, apart from 07, we carved that out. When they do something illegal, they go to jail. They go to the judicial process, they go to jail. People are saying in Jamaica, things happen. I don't want to put you in a spot. You don't have to answer it from the kinds of individuals, but in general, why don't we see similar when people do wrong things that they go to jail?
Because we've had poor legislation, so a lot of things could not be enforced or approved under the legislation.
Okay.
And we've not had a lot of paper trail. Now, where we are now as a country, we have very strong legislation, because you see, during the last Great Depression, a lot of banks in the US failed and none failed in Jamaica. Because the FSC, I think, is very strong, right? We had this situation with SSL the other day. But that is, I don't think that's not something that's endemic. I mean, the way the capital regulations are set up in Jamaica now, the way the FSC operates, I can tell you, the regulations are very strong. I would have no hesitation about recommending people to actually do their financial transaction in Jamaica, because we just caught up in 2004. Remember also with the Companies Act, the first revision to the revision before that to the Companies Act from 2004 was 1966, right? So we
long
were
time ago, long time. Things have changed since then.
Yeah, so we were operating without proper legislation. So when I left PSOJ, I went to Supreme Ventures, and after 5 years there, I was leaving. By that time, let me tell you, Kranky, very interestingly, how I met Mike Ricketts and got on the board. You asked about how I get into it.
Well, I want to get to that transition, because I got the sense. Here's my view: you're a fixer. You're a fixer. I'll say. So you tell me how it goes. That's why I labeled you fixer earlier. Yeah. Because what people do is when they have to troubleshoot, they hire fixers. But go ahead.
Yeah. So while I was at PSOJ, Craig Butler, who I went to school with, right? He actually called me, and let me tell you an interesting fact. Chippy, who is Leon Bailey, right? I've known him from he was 9 years old, because my son played on the same team with him, the Phoenix team, when Phoenix just started, under 13 in Casafa. I was the manager for that team. I actually have a runners-up manager's medal, because we came second. Chippy was 9 at the time. My son was about 12. My son played for that team, and they came second in the.
Because your son is in New York now, right?
My son is in New York now. Right.
Okay. It's a very small world, by the way.
Yeah, you met him.
He played for the team I used to play for, actually.
Yeah, man. He plays football.
And which I'm still a board member. Yeah.
So Craig called me and said, boy, Dennis, I want to get Chippy on. I want to talk to Michael Ricketts about Chippy. Can you call him? I said, boy, I don't know him, but let me call him. So I called Mike. And that's how it started. And I set up this meeting between Mike and Craig, right? So after a while, Mike said me and Mike keep talking, and Mike said, boy, come and sit on the board, So I said, all right, I'll come sit on the board with you, see what I can help you with. Because after a while, Mike is a very likable person.
Extremely likable, yes.
Yeah, man. And I said, all right, Mike, I won't come help you. I went on the board. And then when I was on the board, when I was leaving Supreme, and Mike said at the time they were having, I think they had separated from Dalton. Dalton Wint was the Gensec.
Yes, they were going through a lot of problems then, yes.
Right. So Mike said to me, boy, why don't come help me with this thing for a year? I said, Mike, I really don't want to do that, because I had some other people who were asking me to do some things now. I said, Mike, I really don't want to do that. He said, yeah, man, just come, man. You'll enjoy it, man. Because I enjoy the football, and you know, say you can go around, travel with me and thing. And I said, all right, Mike, I'm going to just do this for a year. And it was actually, he said to me, boy, a year not going to work out. Just do it for 3 years, right? So I said, all right, I mean, we sign. And that's how I got into it. He just asked me, and I said, after about 3 months of me and him talking, he said, all right, I'll just do this thing, right? Because I knew the issues that they were having, right? That the JFF was having, we were having, because I was on the board. And he said, all right, let's do it. So, we did it. We're here now. You know, the first year was a rough year because of the election.
Don't go further. We'll take a step back. We'll do macro, then we do micro.
Yeah.
And the micro is going to inform the macro. We want to start the macro first. So let's take a step back. If you think today where we are now, what's the overall strategy of the JFF going forward? How does it aim to elevate Jamaica's football on the local level and internationally?
Right now, I think that Jamaica, the strategy of Jamaica really is, number one, success at the international level, right? And that is something, or more success, I should say. Number two is development of the football in Jamaica, right? To ensure that we can develop talent in Jamaica, but not just talent in footballing skills, but talent in administration to, like, say, you talk about coaching, for example. You talk about referees, right? So the football product we want to develop. So that, I think, is the main strategy, the main goal that we have. And I think we're much further ahead than we were like 2-3 years ago in terms of that strategy.
So what are the initiatives that inform that strategy? Because if you're saying, look, part of it is refereeing, part of it is coaching, part of it is probably infrastructure. Talk me through what are some of the ongoing initiatives you have and planned initiative to inform that strategy.
All right. Well, the first thing is that a tree doesn't grow from the leaves, right?
Right.
So
yeah,
the football,
that's true.
The football is the footballing's outcome is the fruit that grows on the tree.
Right.
Right. Those are the products of it. So the initial thing is that we have to set the foundation straight, and we can't. As I was saying to Mike early, and Mike bought into the vision that if we want the product to do well, we have to set the administration right. The administration.
You and I talked about that when I used to interview your management program. When you first came and asked you the question, I thought human capital was a key to get you a good place. So keep talking through that. Yeah.
Right. So human capital was key. And therefore, what we did is looked at the organization. I said, where are the things, the elements that need to be fixed? And a primary issue was in financial control. So the lady who came in, Grace Grant, who is our accountant, she has done a remarkable job, right?
Right.
It's not just a matter of new people coming in, because we've had some new people like Karen Clark Lums, and she has done excellent, right? She's a new person that came in. Another girl named Sasha, just in the administration. But
so I have to ask that question before you go further, though. Did you have to let me put this nicely. Did you have to relieve people of their duties to bring these new people in, or were there additions?
We had to separate with a few people.
Okay.
And it's similar that at NSW I do the same thing. You find that what I find with my experience is that whenever you go into an organization, there's always one or two persons who holding it back, right? Because as I said, human resource is key. Yeah. So we had to make those strategic moves. And also what you find is that most of the people there in the organizations, whichever one it is, they have the talent, but sometimes they're not being used properly and they're not motivated properly. So the first time I went into JFF, for example, at 11 a.m. in the morning on a Monday, nobody was in the office.
Where are they? I don't understand.
Huh?
They come in. What?
They never come in yet.
They work out.
At 11 a.m. Sounds like, and I spoke to Mike and I said, Mike, this can't work. So what we do now, we identify the persons, right? And we know, there are some people in there who are towers of strength, right? Roy Simpson, for example, right? Ian Kimball, right? Those people are some foundation people in knowledge. And you bring them in, you give them, and what you find, Kranky, is that a lot of people don't understand. One of the greatest motivators that you can do is delegate authority to people. Give people responsibility.
Yep.
Right? And they will open up and they'll act. And I can tell you, when I look at Roy, for example, when I look at Crystal Walters, Ian, and all of those people, just by giving them that additional responsibility, they really blossom. So I'm not someone who is I don't believe that one person can move an organization. So I think what the key role that someone on top has is how to motivate others within the organization to shine. Right. Right.
So we talk finance. So let's go into the finance. Let's go into the details. Let's dig into finance.
Yeah.
Can you provide an overview of the JFF's current financial status, including revenues, expenses, debt, equity, surplus, etc.?
Current. All right. So the current situation of the JFF, and the revenue is tracking about the same. So we do about over $1 billion a year in revenue.
What's that in real money? I hate to say that way, but you guys use this number in Jamaica and I struggle. You know what? We have to do calculation. Every time somebody mentions that, we jump to the thing and do calculation, right?
Yeah.
So what's that? Like $1 million US or
$1 billion? No, I talk about closer to 100.
At 10. Okay. 100 million. Oh, no, you mean 10 million US?
10 million US, sorry. 10
okay,
million US.
okay. I'm going to say 100 million. But that's I work with JFF. I would do my resume right away. But anyway.
About 10 million US, right?
Okay.
So where we are now, so the surplus, let me give it up to the end of September.
Wait, before you go further, let's talk top line income statement first and we go balance sheet. So if you say revenue is about 10 million, what's your source of revenues?
Your source of revenues, FIFA.
Okay.
CONCACAF.
Is CONCACAF based on just giving you money for every member, or is it because of how you perform?
No, for competitions.
Okay.
They give the same purpose, right?
And FIFA give everyone money.
Yeah, FIFA gives everyone money.
Okay.
The government, private sector, and a very big one, Adidas. So that Adidas.
So you've named about 5 sources. Okay.
Yeah. Those are the 5 sources. And of course, of lately, like last 2 games, we've seen a significant increase in game fees, game sales.
Right, gate receipts, which is supposed to be big for a lot of organizations, but not for the JFF, given the crowd you're not getting.
But it has improved significantly over the past 2 games, right?
Okay.
So at September last year, we had a deficit of $78 million on the income statement.
Right. So in essence, you're losing about $78 million.
Yeah.
It's an income statement, Okay.
Yeah. For September, up to September this year, we had a surplus of $106 million.
So you've turned that around from 78 deficit to 1, so about 200 something.
Right. On less income than we had last year. So it's really about
so you're saying that's prudent management.
Management of the resources.
Yeah, no, so let's talk about your expenses, because if your revenues have stayed steady and your profitability has improved, that means you must have lessened your expenses.
We have lessened our expenses. Yeah.
And what's your major expenses?
The major expense is travel and accommodation.
Okay.
It's a major expense. So you're talking about between the both of them, maybe 40-50% of the expenses is travel and accommodation. So
here's a question for you, because I used to say I have some sponsorship. Historically, I thought we had some agreement way back when with airlines. Right? We don't have Air Jamaica anymore. But we have like
Right.
American Airlines and JetBlue come to Jamaica. Is there a way to connect and link some partnership? JetBlue don't fly from England because a lot of our people going to fly from England, right? Unless when they come here and they go to like Latin America. Is there avenue there, opportunity there to pursue some kind of deal?
Well, that is being done right now because remember we have a marketing company that we've signed with out of the US called C11.
Okay.
And they are actually working on that. So we're trying to put together an airline partner because there are two things that we want to get really, an airline partner and accommodation. If we can do that, we can cut 20 to 30% off our expenses easily.
What airlines fly from England to Jamaica? Is it just BA?
We have Virgin.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, you can connect, for example, so you can.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, Kranky. If I can get 50% of my cost cut, I'm in good stead.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
We're looking at all options.
Here's what's interesting because I have a lot of discussion with a friend of mine from Trinidad. We're talking about the rise of Jamaica and the fall of Trinidad. So we're going in the opposite direction. And the net thing you come out with is money, right? You don't have resources, you can't do certain things. Jamaica is a much better place. So here's a question for you, debt. Because one thing for your income statement to working well, you're making money, losing money, a profitability of 200 million, which is in real money, it's about $1 million, little bit. So what's the situation with the debt? Have we paid on the debt yet?
Yeah, man, we've significantly improved that. So last year we had negative equity of 240 million. To the end of September, our equity was negative 80 million. And we're hoping to eliminate it totally by the end of the year so that we have no negative equity.
But what about your debt though? Because you may have no negative equity, you know.
Right.
We could have decent debt, right? So what's the story with the debt?
So on the debt now, we've actually reduced our short-term accounts payable by 40% over last year, which means that most of that is current now. In fact, our current ratio, right, last year was 0.34 to 1. This year, at the end of September, our current ratio is 0.75 to 1.
So it's improving. It's doubled basically. It's improved. Yeah.
And by the first quarter of next year, we'll be at 1 to 1, and then moving from there.
Then you go more positive, right? Probably. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And that ratio is your current assets to your current liabilities.
Current assets.
So you have accounts payable, you have cash in the bank, you have some investment in the bank. Okay.
Right. So we also, a very important metric for us is the tax liability. When Mike Ricketts took over the administration was $380 million. Today,
wait, before you go any further, wait, stop. Oh, you have tax liability when you not make no money.
No, because remember, you have statutories you have to pay.
Okay. So you got to pay a bunch. Okay.
We have effectively eliminated that tax liability now.
Right.
So from last year, the JFF, for the first in a very long time, has had a tax compliance certificate. Not many companies in Jamaica, Kranky, I can tell you, as an accountant, can say we have a tax compliance certificate.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. Look, the trending, as you're telling me, is that you're trending continuously positive from a financial perspective. Right. If you get current assets, current debt liability married out, if you can reduce the long-term debt, what's the long-term debt number?
Long-term debt? We don't have any long-term debt.
So all the debt you have are short-term?
Short-term, yeah. Short-term debt.
So when can you pay off your debt? Or do you want to pay off your debt? Because the interest rates are favorable, you don't want to pay it off, right?
No, man. Our debt primarily, is basically payables.
Okay. So you don't have, okay. You don't have any bank loans.
No. We don't have none of that. So, I mean, we use that, like even our credit card. Last year, our credit card, we had a debt on it of about $9 to $10 million. Right now, we're current with our credit card.
No, it's a really good story, actor. It's a really, really good story, right? Yeah. And you know how arguments in the money, because you hear me laugh about it. You know how arguments in the money.
Yeah, man. And we don't owe nobody no money. And in fact, since I've been there, we've paid payroll on time every month.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Before that, they used to have some issues. Now, It is. I think it's a substantial improvement. And I can tell you, on the not just on the football side, but the administration side, the first, I know that JFF don't have a tax liability, right? A positive equity at the end of this year, a 1-to-1 current ratio, right? I tell Mike, I say, Mike, you are not going to be only the most successful president on the football field, because he has gone to 2 World Cups to the women. He's poised to go to one next year. He has won the CFU under 14. Historically, with an all-local team, including squad and players, right?
So we have a discussion about the under 20. I'll come to that with you. But
man.
We're not going to make a slide with the good thing and the bad thing. Go on.
No, we have to talk about that too. But
yeah.
Administratively, I think he has been the most successful president also.
Right? Look, I don't think one can argue that, because when Schaefer took over, when Schaefer left and all the debt that was there, that burns the organization. And people, let me just say this, because I'm not blowing smoke up, JFF. And I know how you guys are. When Schaefer come on, how you guys can be negative. I know I've been made aware of the Trinidad situation. It is difficult when you don't have money. And I talked to Dennis about this when he first joined the organization. My first thing was that human capital needs to be addressed, because something only as good as the people that you have working with you and for you. That's an imperative. If you get that right, you'll be surprised how things work.
Yeah, man.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Are the revenue sources sustainable? And what are you doing to make them sustainable and to increase the revenue sources?
Yeah, man. I think the revenue sources are sustainable. I think the revenue sources can increase more. And I tell you, just over the last week, we've had 3 reggae fan clubs come and say, we want to raise money for you. And let me tell you something, Kranky. I mean, an organization is like an individual. You realize, Kranky, that when your credit is good, that's when you get the offers for more to borrow.
True. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I get beaten from that meeting, right? Because I suggested that they should consolidate, and somebody sent me a job from the JFF. I'm trying to be significant. Also, that stuff. I was just trying to make a suggestion to say, you know what? If you have one governance body, as you talk about corporation of governance body, and you have offices and locations, it may work better because it's not disparate.
And that's something we've discussed, because it makes sense. So, we'd love to have a situation where you have one location, for example.
Yeah, because Dennis don't want to talk to 4 people every time you got to talk to some people. You don't want to talk to 3-4 people. Exactly. So go ahead.
And let me tell you now, one of the things that we know we're moving in the right direction is FIFA actually came and did our last central review audit in June.
Right.
And they said to us, listen, we've seen significant improvement. Everything is okay except for the travel procurement policy. Travel procurement, which is a problem right across the Caribbean. Right? So what
do you mean by problem with travel procurement policy? What does that mean?
All right. So the travel procurement that FIFA has is that you have to get
you put off a bid? Okay.
You have to get 3 quotes every time you're traveling.
Yep.
Now, it works in large companies like the US, large countries like the US, because they have hundreds and thousands of seats available.
Yeah.
In Jamaica, when we go out and we say, okay, we want 50 seats, there might be 150 seats available. When that person gives us a quote for 50 seats, the supply goes down to 100, but the demand is still the same. So the next person will go to with a quote and say, we want 50 seats, and they reserve the 50. The supply goes down to 50, and the demand is the same. So the price keeps going up. So the time I tried to stick to that policy, the outcome actually ended up costing me double what the initial quote was.
But are they saying you can't have one relationship? So you put the contract out for bid for travel purposes.
Right. So what we're doing now, we're putting a process in place where we're going to go to market and get a bid where we work with one person. Right. So that is where we're coming, and we're actively working on that now for implementation for next year.
I would assume that, obviously people earn the money in for profit, but if you're working with an organization, there got to be some discount built into that whole construct.
Right. And we can do checks on it. For example, someone, even though we're working with someone we can still go on and check the prices.
Right. Okay.
To make sure that it's okay. So there's a way for us to do that, and it will save us a lot of money. But we basically had a very good central review audit. We're looking forward as an organization to come off a restricted funding by early next year.
So if you come off restricted funding, we need enough money. There's one thing to get your finances in order and you're profitable, but we have a lot of work to do from a development standpoint to invest in the football. Have we thought about the universe of sources for revenues, and then how we're going to apply those revenues to those initiatives to make sure we're really building up? I'm going to touch upon that in terms of number of questions around infrastructure. But have we thought through that whole process?
Yeah, man. So as you said, the work that's happening on the marketing side with the games.
Right.
So we're seeing a lot more gate receipts. We're also seeing a lot more local people being interested in sponsoring, right? The overseas people, as we talked about, we have a department that's just solely based on projects. So there's a lot of money out there available from FIFA, and so which we just have to, once we get off restricted funding, we can access more of that money.
Okay. So we say money sitting out there we can get, but we have to get. What do we need to do to get off restricted funding? Is the travel procurement situation?
Basically, that's it. I mean, I think we're there now. I think it's really just ironing out the procurement policy for the travel, which everybody across the Caribbean has that problem.
So here's the thing, Dennis. Why would the Caribbean come together and you guys develop one and everybody leverage that one?
Well, that's what's going to be done now.
Okay.
Right. It's just that I think Jamaica is the guinea pig, as usual.
Okay.
But I think FIFA has been moving towards that, because FIFA did have, about a year ago, we had a financial conference, governance conference in Bahamas. And that's one of the main things that we're talking about. And FIFA, I mean, let me tell you, FIFA is a very supportive organization, because remember, they're the talent development scheme. They're the ones who do it. The training of
don't touch that, because we have enough questions about that. How much time do you have, by the way? We have so much question.
Yeah.
I haven't touched the audience question yet, because I want to get you on my question. So hold on the development. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Here's my next question. Your question is about the senior teams. I won't go to junior teams yet, the senior teams. So how would you describe the current status and performance of the Reggae Girls and the Reggae Boys senior team? And then we'll touch the junior teams. In fact, you know what? Go the direction you want to go in. We can do all the teams.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think with the new coach that has come, right? I remember I'm not in technical, right? So I speak from my perspective. Coach McLaren, I think, and his assistant, Richard, these guys know what they're doing.
Okay.
These guys presented, when I sat with them the last time they were here, right? And they gave me a SWOT analysis on all the components that make up a successful team and where our areas of weakness are. Very.
Can you share those weaknesses, Eric?
No, I can't share it. But they did a stoplight system on it.
Right.
Showed the various areas, and I was very impressed with it. Right. You see how they're bringing in players. I mean, I use one example, for example, and I'm a person who, from a football point of view, the position I love to see most is midfield, or midfield control the game. You will see, Kranky, how Casey Palmer's game has changed. Significant change, right? When you see all of those players how they're coming together. I mean, one of my favorite players is Kaheem Dixon. I think that guy has a lot of potential, right? For him to develop, right? So I think that the boys and where the coaches are and the strategy that they're employing, I think that team is going to get stronger and stronger, right? Definitely we'll go to Nations League finals. Wait, hold on. Back up. What you just said about I'm stuttering now. What you said? We go to Nations League final. I think we'll go to Nations League final. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but let me just say this: until we fix the midfield and until the forwards them start score, like my Arsenal team forward now score, Yeah.
That's not going to happen. We have to fix the scoring drought and the midfield.
Remember the last time we came third, you know.
No, I was I was in Dallas watching the games, but you were there. I was there.
And let me tell you something. Is lucky the US lucky why they won, you know? You know that.
I'm not gonna say that.
Here's
my view on that. Yes, they scored the last kick of the game, and I was very upset. But
we were the ones who basically scored it.
And CFAS missed a really easy goal. But I say this though. For me to feel comfortable as a fan, we have to have more ball position against the US and put them under more pressure.
No,
right? They can't just play a box and right. Okay.
I agree with you, you know. Right? Okay. But I'm saying that I think
coming to like sit down there and I'm nervous for 90 minutes. I don't like that. I not enjoy football.
It's a good weight loss program, you know.
Yeah, well, what if I wait? It probably come maga. I was at the game, me and Minzy, and it was stressful.
I think definitely that we'll qualify for the World Cup, right?
Well, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Yeah. Right, so you're saying you think, right? It's the top 3 teams, but let me just say this because I watch all the games, as you probably realize, and I didn't think we were that good against Honduras, even though we beat them 6 of the last 6 times. Right? Because if you look at it, we had 62% in possession. They had 38. We had no shots that the keeper had to save. That needs to change. That's my concern about offensively, even though we have all the name players like Antonio and Gray, it's not happening. So that needs to change. But we won't get to the specifics of that.
I understand. And don't feel anyway, Kranky. I think the coaching staff has also seen that.
Okay.
They're going to ensure that they fix that. In terms of the senior women's team, I think that there is some building that needs to happen. Right? I think that
still
coach. There's
still
some
building with the administration or building with the coaching staff or both.
Yeah. So no, not the coaching staff. I mean, I think that if you look at what has been happening, he has been playing some tough competition to get to see what the team is like.
Yeah, right? France was difficult. France was difficult.
Brazil was difficult. Right? Yeah. We played Chile with a young team and we didn't do it badly. I mean, in fact, those youngsters that we saw during the Gold Cup campaign, they actually were good in terms of their fight spirit and everything. They didn't do badly. So we have a lot of young persons coming up. We have South Africa that we're playing on the 29th of November and the 2nd of December in Montego Bay. Right?
Okay. And how are ticket sales going for that? How are ticket sales going?
No, we haven't started ticket sales for that yet. Right? Because as soon as the USA game is over, then we're going to start sending that.
But Dennis, should we put that out now, Dennis? Because you know them thing that work, right?
Yeah, that's going out. That's going out this week, right?
Okay.
And we've actually put some teasers out there already. But what we don't want to do is overshadow the US game.
Yeah, right? I get it.
Some teasers out there. And Montego Bay has a capacity of 7,000 seats. So, it's not like Kingston where we have a 30,000 seat capacity. And Montego Bay, the people there, I don't know what it is, but you find that fans are a lot more eager to go to games there. Maybe they don't have as much competitive things as in Kingston, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So we think that, and South Africa, I know, is very excited about coming. So we're looking forward to those 2 games. When you talk about the youth teams, you saw the under 14. The under 14 is our.
But Dennis, let me stop you there, Dennis. Dennis, I've been telling people this, Dennis, over and over again. Our competition is no longer the Caribbean.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
But based on the fact of how those guys performed, right? I think it's a good building block. Remember, they went to the finals, won 7-1, but the 7 goals were scored in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Right? In fact, scouts were trying to take away 3 of the boys at under 14 to carry them away.
What do you mean scouts? Scouts from where?
Scouts from overseas.
Okay.
Right? The under 17 team also, which has a tournament coming up next year early. They are a very good team. Right? So we know that, and this is something we've discussed internally, the under 14 and the under 17s are very good. Local talent, not just overseas talent, but local talent. We have more in the more overseas in the under 17, right?
Right.
But the talent pool between the under 17 and under 14 and the work that they're doing, because we have the technical development program now, and we're working with them continuously, right? So those are very good. I know that we have a problem at the under 20 level.
So I mean, ask the question every day on my program. Every single day I start, I'm asking the question, where's the post-mortem for the under 20? Because when the under 14 won, I saw the president out, I saw the coach there, and we all hunky-dory, and then under 20.
No, the post-mortem has been done in a Kranky, but it's just that we don't talk about
No, we need to know. Look. What's done is done, right? Yeah, what's done is done. Let me say another thing too. I'm going to go a little bit my soapbox a little bit and say this. Yeah. I have had a problem with Rudolph around the whole quota system. I understand why we do the quota, right? I understand it, but you can't fix a problem and make it and create another problem, right? We have to figure out a way to work to navigate this, to allow local talent to manifest itself and to grow and develop and get exposure without impeding or blocking others who have Jamaican citizenship. Because so my view is this: if you're naturalized, you're a Jamaican citizen, and if you have the ability, it should be meritocracy. You should play. I want to hear your view on this, because I understand where Rudolph is coming from, but we have to figure something else out.
You know, and I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that we were a little limited before because we did not have this talent development program.
We're going to talk exclusive about that. I have about 15 questions on that, but go ahead.
Right, we didn't have that program. So what we were not having is a lot of camps and a lot of training happening, right?
Right.
So the small events that we had, I mean, you wouldn't have enough time to see both the overseas and the locals on a continuous basis. I think that with what we have now, even when we don't have tournaments, we're still carrying in some overseas people, right?
Okay.
And looking at them. So a greater mix is happening now, right?
Right.
And I think that the success of the under 14s is a direct result of the talent development program that has been happening on the ground.
All right. So let's transition to that. I don't want to beat you about the under 20. In future time, we'll talk more about it. Because here's my view on that. I Ketarak asked a question about the under 23 now and how you use that to supply the national team. And the problem I have with the whole concept is this: unless we pursue kids who we see at immense talent at an early age, to then convince them to create that loyalty to come into a national program, they will always going to play for their mother country where they were born.
Right.
If I put up an affiliation with you, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, man. And that is what we're trying to do with the talent development program. So, I mean, going back to that under 20 now, Kranky, I mean, if you think about it, if we had started the talent development program 2 years before that we did, maybe we would have done much better at the under 20 stage.
Yeah.
But because we did not have something like that in place, right, we basically did not have what I would call an academy type program. What is happening now is that Wendell Downswell, who is now moving over to the TDS, because he's basically retiring this year as TD.
Wendell's retiring? Okay, let me maintain my. Sorry, let me just take a break. Let me drink some water. Sorry. Wendell's retiring. So who's going to replace? Who's going to replace Wendell before we go further?
But he's at retirement age, right?
Right. So, but do we have a replacement for him?
Yeah, man. I know the technical committee is looking at that.
Right? Oh, are they going overseas or are they going local? Can you just disclose that?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But I mean, we have enough. We have enough local talent here.
Can I just make a suggestion? Let me just say this: go Spanish. That's all I'll say about that. And we can talk about why you should go. I'm dead serious about that.
You mean choose a local person who speaks Spanish?
No. I mean, get a Spanish coach who can leverage off what Spain does, because I keep telling people this: benchmarking is an imperative. Yeah. If I look at Spain, they won Euros. They won Euros without having somebody with a recognized name, because you go to the whole youth system. But anyway, go ahead.
You can't actually benchmark without getting someone from that place. You know?
No, I agree, but I think you should get somebody with the know-how. But anyway, we're not going to that today. But it got to be a consideration. It got to be a consideration.
Committee.
But so Dennis, take a step. Wait, back up for a second. Can you outline? Let's talk about youth development program, because it's a must, right?
Yeah.
And it's the right approach with the right steps to do this. Can you outline the key objectives of the program first? And how will it align with the JFF vision?
All right. So the key objectives of the TDS program is to ensure that you have a pool of local players that can feed into the national program.
Okay.
So
how do you identify that pool? How do you identify the pool? And how do you keep replenishing the pool?
All right. So what we do now is we have employed scouts across the island. That's a key part of the TDS program.
Wait. So no stop. Just do Kingston and St. Andrew and stop at Clarendon.
Across the island.
Come here, come from Manchester and skip Manchester. But go ahead.
So we have a pool of scouts that are scouting across the island.
Okay.
They're reporting to Wendell, right, and say, hey, we have identified, or we have a coach, right? So Wendell administers it, and we have a coach named Purser, and they will take a look at the talent that the scouts identify, or the parish presidents themselves might say, listen, we have this guy that we want you to look at. So we send out our feelers through the scouts and the parishes. We identify talent, we bring them in, right? And then from that now, so like Wendell just went through a camp with some under 17 girls, and he said, you know, I have found about X persons from it. I don't want to tell the exact number, but he said, you know, we've invited in 20 persons and we find X persons. So the thing now is you hold on to that X number. Say we use a number, a 3, right? He holds on to that 3, then he invites in some more, right? And then from that now, eventually, which we did with the under 14, you build a complete squad, right? And that squad now, so you're moving from the under 14, you keep them together. You keep them together through under 17, you keep them together through under 20 to under 23, and then up to the senior, right?
So how does FIFA support the program from a training infrastructure standpoint?
FIFA provides us with a coach, a FIFA coach that helps us. And FIFA provides money for us, and also they do courses with us. So training courses. So I just came back from one with Wendell and the coach in Toronto about a month ago. Very good. You had Mexico there, that's in the program. Trinidad was there, right? Barbados was there, El Salvador, so right across the region. And in fact, in the CFU competition, the Group A and the Group B, the 2 teams that won are teams that are in the talent development scheme. So Barbados won at the Group B level, and Jamaica at the Group A. Right?
What are the age groups in the scheme? What are the age groups?
We start from under 12, so 11, 12, right? And we'll go up to about 15, 16 in there.
Right.
And
how long have we been doing the program now?
Just over a little over a year.
Okay.
And
what measurable improvements have we observed? I know you're going to tell me the under 14, but let me ask a question anyway.
Yeah, well, the under 14 what was significant, but what we've seen is that is really a more structured approach, right?
Okay.
So before you were like shooting in the dark. Now, because of the scouts that we have, is more structured. It's like sniper shooting now. So we say, okay, we identify this person, and we'll go at that person, right? And we bring them in like that. Before it was, okay, let's bring in everybody. We didn't really have a structure in terms of saying, okay, let's retain a cadre of persons and establish an academy with them and bring them in every week. So every week we're bringing in different age groups between the different genders. Right?
So when do you settle on a core group?
Well, we'll settle on it over time. So as we build out, remember, as people come in and we select it and we have a team. And we say, okay, we have a core of 20, we're working with it. That doesn't mean that you don't bring in somebody and let go somebody. Yep. Performance. But at least you have a core that you're working with. And one might come out, one might come in, two might, you know what I mean? So that's what we're hoping now. So that under 14 and under 17, as I discussed with Wendell now, that now is setting us up for the 2030 World Cup. Right? So 2026 is the next one. It's 2030 now is the U14s and the U17s.
Well, we have concerns about the current squad ages for some of the key players like Antonio and Pinnock and all of them and Low. So it's good that we're thinking that way. So what challenges have you faced in effectuating, putting in place this program? What's some of the challenges you face? And how are you or people working to address them if you have such challenges?
In terms of putting in the program, we're really, I mean, the challenge is really the teething problems, you know. Ensuring that we get the right scouts, ensuring that we get the right administration in place, you know, going out and getting the players. It's really teething pains. I think the program has worked very well. I think the support from FIFA has been tremendous. And as you say, I mean, I always come back to the under 14 because that for me is a mini success that we're going to take and we're going to build on that.
Right.
You know, and when you look at the feeder into the under 17, because the under 17 has a very good program now. Omar McFarlane, who manages it, and Freddie Butler is the head coach there. And, you know, Freddie's a very good coach, right? Yep. And the under 17 has been doing very well. They go off, I think at the start of next year, they're going to do a tournament, and then they go off to the major tournament.
Is there any way you've thought about pushing this down to the parishes in a sense to have similar construct? Because
we're doing that.
Now it's like it's a top. Okay.
Yeah, man. We're doing that. So a part of the TDS program is that FIFA gives you money to employ a talent coach within each parish.
Right.
Right.
So have you and FIFA worked? Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry. Keep going.
So that is being done now, and also we are working with the parishes to do an under 13 and an under 15 competition.
Right. And I assume that's going to tie into, I do have a lot of questions. I have to apologize. How much time do you have? Got me enough questions.
I'm another 40 minutes, Kranky.
Yeah, no questions. We didn't touch infrastructure yet.
Yeah. I want to touch infrastructure. I mean, this is not our only talk.
Okay. You know what? We should do this twice a year or 3 times a year. We should do this actually. Seriously.
Yeah,
and you update us on initiatives that you're undertaking, right? We should do that. We should do that. So how are you measuring success of the program? I know the under 14 is an example, but do you have key metrics and criteria that you've established with FIFA about how you determine what the success look like?
So in terms of course, the feeder into the national teams, right? Also, you know, if you look at the more local level, how much talent are we able to identify, right? What do we see in terms of when the talent comes out, how they actually develop, right? So if they come in at 1, you know, how can we move them to 3, a level of 3? And that's an assessment done by the coaches, right?
Right.
So that drives it. And what we're looking at also is not just the footballing skills, but the behavioral skills.
So I want to touch upon that actually, because I got a sense in Jamaica historically, we have developed people just based on their footballing skill.
Right. No,
a friend of mine.
No, we're moving from that. We're moving from that.
Okay, because a friend of mine with academy in North Carolina, and he showed me these values. He showed me his mottos. Yeah. And he said nothing about football. It's about the human being development.
Right.
Football is a component that informs that.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We're developing the person, right?
Yes.
The discipline is very important. Academics, right?
Yep.
We're putting in the academics. One of the things that I've put in place also is that anyone who interacts with a youth team must do the FIFA safeguarding course, safeguarding for children, right?
That's important also.
Right, yep. Those things are very important. So we're doing a holistic program. So as we're going, we're building it. And I think that when you look at the attitude of these under 14 boys, it just shows the development that happened there. Very respectful.
Right. Okay. You know I think that's an imperative because I've dealt with a lot of players who have done well in Jamaica and they come here and the discipline is not there.
Yeah, man. So we see that. We see that. I mean, even at the national level, you know, the coaches will come down like the female coach, Busby, and he'll say, listen,
right,
you know, we see some attitude issues here. We need to address that. So we're dealing with all of that. But one of the initiatives that we've done at the parish level also is that the JFF has given a certain amount of money to the parishes, thanks to Ray and Neville, who has sponsored the coaching program and said, listen, use this and develop X amount of coaches. So we want to develop about 500 D-licensed coaches at the primary school level this year. The Ministry of Sport, right? Babsy Granger actually come on and supported us there also. She's a part of it. So the idea is train 500 primary school coaches and turn them into D-license coaches. And the next year, right, after they finish the D-license, we turn them into C-license coaches, right? So that we have more, a better coaching complement at the primary level. Once you do that, then you're developing the player there also. So
what's the timeline for this? I actually think primary school should have at least a B license, but that's just me. But what's the timeline to get them there? Because it's going to be a process, right?
No, man, that process is in place now.
Okay.
Right? So within another few months, we should have the D license coaches at the primary school level. In fact, we have put in place that in order for you to coach in the Premier League, you have to have at least a B license. Right?
Right. I know that. And I know somebody had a Malta license. I'm not going to that. A Malta license that wanted to. But anyway, keep
right. And to coach in the high school level, you need a C license. Right? Okay. So we're stepping it up like that because people don't understand how important that element of it is. I mean, we at JFF can develop football throughout the country. We have to ensure that the skill set is there at the coaching level.
Yep.
Right? We have to ensure also that the refereeing, the quality of the refereeing is there, right? So we're working with that, and I think we've been very successful with that. I mean, Jamaica, has quite a number of FIFA coaches, right? And we're featured in many of the major competitions. So I think this.
So wait, one second. So you're fixing the referee situation, you're fixing the coaching, you're fixing administration within the JFF. We're gonna get to the facilities. Are you helping to fix? I'll get myself in trouble. The parishes and how they're administered.
We work with them. In fact, I had a conversation with my senior women's team, Crystal Walters, who actually I just sent her on a course, a FIFA course, and we found some programs, right, that deals with things like commercialization of programs and things. And what we discussed today is actually engaging with FIFA for them to come down here and coach, not just people in the JFF, but also the parishes and the clubs. And so we want to bring courses here to train our people. And if you look at the Premier League, for example, you find that it is improving, right? So Mount Pleasant, for example, has a very good administrative program. Even Cavaliers has a very good program. And you see the administration. Arnett Gardens has a very good administrative program, right? You see the clubs that have very good administrative programs, Harborview, they actually do very well on the field.
Right.
Okay. So we are trying to fix it for everyone. So for the coaching, the money that we gave some money to clubs too. And one of the things that we did is not just take the money and give it to them, but we said to them, hey, for you to get this money, we have to have a contract with certain objectives that you're going to achieve. And we need a budget for the year. If you don't give us a budget, you don't get it. And those are the ways in which we try and encourage them. And of course,
but wait, how do you get comfort about how they spend the money? How do you get accountability
because they have
evidence? Right.
A part of the contract is that they have to give us the accountability in terms of how the expenditure happened, the receipts and everything, and show us what the results were from it.
Is that audited, or you just take it for what it is?
No, we take it for what it is from them. At some point in time, we have to have some amount of trust in them, so we take it for what it is. And the truth is, Kranky, I mean, it will show up in their performance, So you'll know after a while who is doing what they're supposed to do, because it shows up in their performance.
So have you thought about, from a procurement standpoint, if all these parishes and the JFF are utilizing different organizations to conduct business, of collating some of those and leveraging pricing for some of those activities?
Yeah, man, we've thought about that. So those things are put in place. In fact, one of the things the JFF Congress said is that one of the first things we want to do is we want to get all parishes on the same constitution like the JFF has, So ensure that all parishes have a certain level of constitutional reform happening, because we just did one recently and we're improving it. And Congress has mandated that happens. So that is being done right now with a committee led by Vice President Raymond Grant, right? So, we're taking steps to ensure, a stronger JFF. Once JFF is stronger, it means we can support them, put training courses in place, put coaching in place, put refereeing in place. And, from that perspective, it ties into our strategy, as I said, that it leads to better national performance, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's.
Yeah, one of the challenges that Jamaica has is that it's a poor country. So, of course, when you develop people, you know that eventually they're going to leave.
I think the poor country, you're putting that quotes, but all right, keep going.
and after the mashup that happened with the rains yesterday on the road, we're poor, I know.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I thought Nigel fixed all of that, but keep going. Nigel fixed all
well, what Nigel has done is ensure that we don't have to go out and borrow the money like before.
Come here, Nigel, I get beaten because he reduced debt, and then I talk about debt, no greater number of GDP. I said to myself, man, no one I talk about it, because they might reduce the debt. Forget what some of the other numbers. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so we're putting the things in place to ensure that we achieve the objectives that we want to achieve. And if it's going to be led by JFF, as I said, JFF has to be strong. And we've done a lot of work on the administrative, the financial side, the governance side, to ensure that JFF is strong. Because can you imagine a week FIFA trying to implement changes throughout the world? It couldn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we have to make sure that there's a strong JFF.
I think Rudolph will call you. I think Rudolph will call you, so we cut that. But we have time. We have time.
and then it filters down, right?
Right. Yeah.
Into the regions, the clubs, and the parishes.
Okay. So let's go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
We're getting there, right? But the truth is that there was a lot of things to be done. So it's going to take some time. I'm sure that people have seen that over the past year and a half. We really haven't seen any issues with travel and visa and that sort of thing.
Because I don't have money. What do you mean? Tell me I don't have money. Money. I probably have money.
We've put proper financial governance in place. Our audit is delivered on time. For the first time this year, FIFA was able to call us and say, "Boy, listen, your audit is on time."
Right. That people with money, they don't have problem, then give problem. Give problem.
It means that they had money before.
So let's pivot to infrastructure, because I can hear a lot of time from people in my chat, and I'm seeing it myself, the concern about infrastructure in Jamaica that supports the football. Whether it's a national stadium, whether it's in Montego Bay, there's a lot of concern. So what are we doing I know that I heard Bob's Grange announce some things more recently about the national stadium. What are we doing to improve the infrastructure?
All right. So we definitely have a big problem with infrastructure in Jamaica. And this is a problem that has been coming down for a long time. And I think it was a few years ago, what I think changed everything when the money from the SDF, it was totally delegated to sports. And then they just put it in this thing called the Consolidated Fund. That is like a black hole in space.
Right? You know about the holes in Jamaica?
Anything that goes to, and therefore
very dark in there. But go ahead.
Funding support, I think, has been cut. No, interestingly you say that, because I had a conversation with the minister today about what is happening with infrastructure. So the work is being done on the stadium, but at the same time, they're looking at Montego Bay, Catherine Hall, right? So I've spoken to the mayor about it, and they're going to be upgrading that. So one of the things I've said to them, since we work on the stadium start next year, if we were to upgrade Montego Bay Sports Complex, Catherine Hall, and at the same time, which she also has a plan to do, start the work on the Trelawney Multipurpose Stadium, which from it has been built, is just goats having there. right?
Yeah.
Then we won't miss the stadium too much while it's being worked on, right? If we do that. So I think that's the plan. So I think Catherine Hall is going to see a lot more development. I personally think that Montego Bay is an ideal place for sporting events because, I mean, if you have a good stadium there, you have the hotel. You have more flights coming from all over the world there.
And they're also building out the roads and the bypass and all that to facilitate better transportation, right? Yeah.
So Montego Bay, I think, is an ideal place. Kingston, of course, you have the National Stadium. And you have more developed complexes like, the Arnett Gardens. Well, Mount Pleasant, for example, has done a very good job. Right. But I think that certainly at the municipality level, the parish councils, one of the proposals that the president has, which I think is very good, is that every parish council should take on at least one facility and say let me develop one facility, right? Because we need infrastructure in the country. As Hal Grimson said when he was here, if you bring Messi to Jamaica in 2 weeks, he'll be an average player. Because the fields are
I don't know about that, but he would not be as good as he is now.
Right,
yes, I would agree.
Good, right? Because the fields is so bad, the infrastructure is so bad. But based on the plans that I hear the minister has, based on the things that are outlined, I think that a lot is going to be done to address it. Now, I think that sports is actually a very good way for us to earn a lot of money as a country. We have a major competitive advantage in sports. Because if you look at it, even look at athletics, track and field, Jamaica should have some very high level track and field stadiums.
Yeah,
and we should
our multi-purpose stadiums. Yes.
We should have people coming here from all over the world.
Yeah.
In Montego Bay, for example, we should have one.
Especially as you say with all the hotels you have in Montego Bay. Yes, definitely. Yes.
I mean, we could make a lot of money from it. And the other thing is that if you're an attractive location, think about FIFA or CONCACAF coming and having a congress in Jamaica. You know how much money that is?
Yeah.
If you have one congress from one sporting body each year, it's a lot, it's billions of dollars generated,
Yeah. So is the government sold on that? Because they were going to be the ones, right, generating some of those revenues. Are they sold? And do they have the funding to really enhance the infrastructure?
Well, I spoke with the minister today, and I think the minister, that is something that she's looking at. I certainly think that you have to make the investment because you have to look at it from an investment point of view, Kranky. So you say, you say you might not want to spend $100, but if I spend $100, I might end up earning $200.
Right, and they could do scenario analysis, right?
Exactly.
They could do best case, worst case, something in the middle, right? They could do scenario analysis,
Right. So for example, that you have track and field, which if we have with all our athletes here, if we have an international event, right? I mean, look at Champs, for example. We don't have enough seats to sell.
Yeah.
And that is Champs,
Are these seats in spaces other than bleachers? Because I'm going to go, the stadium needs to be enhanced. The stadium needs to be developed.
The plan for the stadium is that it won't have any bleachers everywhere.
Which is great, actually. Yeah.
Everywhere would be the same.
Yeah.
You think about it also. I mean, I'm not even touching football, but you think about it. We have the third best netball team in the world. Right? We should be having netball tournaments here.
So then what's the timeline for these things? What's the timeline?
Well, the Montego Bay complex is being worked on right now. They've started that process. Right.
And what's the timeline for finishing it to get it to a reasonable place where it can be utilized?
Well, I think that the upgrades they've already worked on the field, so I know they did some work on the field. I think what Montego Bay needs right now is to put some stands in, put some better lighting in, which the mayor has said that lights are on the way. He has already ordered lights to build a complex around it. That might take you maybe about 2 years to get there overall, but I think that where we are with the field and we can lay a track in a track can go in at, within a matter of months.
Okay.
We can have a new track in. So I think that Montego Bay can actually replace the stadium facility when they start work next year. For stadium, they're not.
You're going to be an alternative venue. I know that's going to work for like Champs, for example, but it's going to be an alternative venue for events when the stadium is being refurbished.
Because what they're going to do is that they're not going to take out all the stands in the stadium at one time.
Oh, they're doing it piecemeal. Okay.
Pieces,
okay.
Right. So you're still going to be able to use it. What is happening is that the capacity is going to be reduced. Right?
Reduced? I thought they're going to increase capacity.
No, reduced while they're working on it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I thought if you refresh,
right.
Okay.
Like parts of bleachers.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. But it's still going to be usable. Now, when you look at the plans that they have for stadium, it's going to be a significant development. It's a really nice complex that they're looking at there. So I think
they thought about just doing something totally from scratch versus refurbishing. Is it more expensive to do that versus refurbish?
Well, they're working around the structure that they have, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's what they're doing now is basically almost from scratch, but they're just working around the structure because they already have a field there.
Right.
Yeah. They have the base of the track. They already have the structure of the stadium. Remember, we have the multi-purpose court also, which is fairly new.
Yeah.
They're going to take out the cycle track. I hear they're going to put a velodrome elsewhere. And interestingly, the only medal we've got outside the track and field at the Olympics is in cycling.
Yeah.
David Weller. Right?
Yeah.
So it's the only sport outside the track and field that we've been successful at the Olympics. In fact, just this week at 20, I think Laurie's about 21 or 22. She just won the cycling women's elite championship for the Caribbean.
I mean, you know that you're a cyclist, but go on.
She rides with me. She rides with me on Sundays. And she leave me in the dust. I'm not ashamed to say it,
Okay.
But we have the talent here, right? I mean, when you talk about the fact that our rugby team went to the World Cup, right?
Okay. Yeah.
We had Alia Atkinson had a world record in swimming.
Yes, she I think mixed out her medal. You thought she would have medal by now, actually. And she's done really well. She had a world record. Yeah.
So we have a lot of talent here. And I think that it's just today, as I said, I was discussing it with the minister. And she already is developing a plan for that. As we speak now, she is developing a strategic plan, right? A national plan to push in this direction. So where we are now, we definitely have an infrastructure problem, right?
Yeah, and my concern is the timeline to get infrastructure in place. It won't be before 2026.
No. It's going to take us a few years because the truth is that we're just coming out of our fiscal problems.
Yep.
Right? So it's going to take us a few years. But, for me, what's important is that we're moving in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to get to where a UK. So I go to Leicester City, for example, and one of their training grounds is 12 immaculate fields.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, my friend in North Carolina just sent me a video.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about those fields. For kids, he has a academy there.
You can sleep on those fields.
You can sleep on the fields, yes. The fields are beautiful, yes.
Yeah, man. And that is what good football, that's what helps develop good football.
Yep. Totally agree.
So I think that we'll get there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the sporting ground that we have closest to an international level right now is maybe cricket, Sabina Park. Outside of that, the others are really fighting to get up to international level, and maybe the indoor sports center with the netball court.
Right. Okay.
Outside of that, I think we're really struggling in terms of infrastructure, but we'll get there. When you look at like a place like St. Lucia, Bonaire, Trinidad, their governments actually developed about 5 fields each, in those countries.
So should we use that as a way to shame our government to do so quicker?
No, I don't want to shame my government, you know, man. Because
if we have smaller Caribbean island who are not where we are in any respect, and they're doing this, why can't we just say, here's an example, Minister?
Yeah. No, and we've sent the examples, but we don't want to shame because they might stop talk to us.
Okay, fine. So, Minister, use that word shame. Encourage them.
Yeah, man, we're encouraging them, man, working with them. But, you know, the truth is that the country just come out of a fiscal situation. You know, we just got our debt to GDP reduced to 70%. So before that, we were at 150%. Most of our money was being sent abroad in interest payments.
Right. Okay.
Now we have some fiscal room and we have a lot of things to do. I mean, I talk about sports, but we have a lot of competing interests. I talk about the roads, for example, that does smash up. I mean, I know my friend Robert Myers, who is the Minister of Works, when after yesterday, he must be having nervous breakdown.
He might have enough work. He might have enough work for them.
That is horrendous what has happened. You know?
Yeah, and look, I that's a difficult situation because you have money allocated for other things, and you got to do it to repurpose the roads and to redo the roads and fix the road. That becomes a problem because you don't have unlimited budget. Let's pivot to the coach, actually. I have asked on my program every day for the last 2 months. So could you elaborate on the coach's responsibility specifically regarding performance and development, but also the national team? Because here's my concern. The coach is here in the international windows, right? When Hagrimson came, he stayed for a while. He had a place to live. When I spoke to Rudolph way back when, he said it was mandatory for the coach to live in Jamaica. That has changed. What does the coach do? Let's talk about his responsibility. And also, what does he do when the windows are not open?
All right. So it hasn't really changed, right? It is something that we're working towards. Right now, when there is not a window, I know that I am constantly speaking with them. Rudolph is constantly speaking with them because remember, their focus right now is to build a core team that is strong enough for Nations League and also World Cup. So during the breaks, we're constantly talking about things that are needed. We talk about infrastructure. We need to get in place certain software that can help them with technical analysis, right? They're working on those things. We're talking about things like nutrition programs, right? They're also, many times also looking at other players, right? So we have local people who are looking at our local people, right? And they feed it into the coaches. The coaches also are looking at players internationally. So part of the contract that we have with the coach is that from time to time, he'll go to UK, travel elsewhere, and look at players. So we should have at least one player coming to the squad when it's announced Saturday, for example, right?
But Dennis, let me just say this, which is, one second, not to cut you, but let me just say this. Each time the coach has come for the last 3 windows, he has said, he spoke to Meron and Meron referred a player. He doesn't say he knows the player. And here's my concern. So when I look at when Pochettino got hired by the US, when I look at when Arteta got hired by Arsenal, when I look at Emery got hired by Arsenal, the thing that stood out to me was they had a dossier on every single player in the Arsenal squad or in the US squad, strengths, weaknesses, challenges, playing time, the whole works. Yet when the coach comes, he says, Meron Gordon referred this. And we have been making jokes saying Meron Gordon is the coach because why does the coach keep saying that when in interview process, I would expect he would know these players.
Yeah.
So am I missing something?
So you see that dossier that you speak about, it is being developed. And you know, when it started being developed, give him his due, is Hagrimson.
Right, but I'm just saying the coach should have if I'm interviewing for a job with Dennis, for an organization, I want to say, you know what, Dennis, here's your team, here's all your players, here's what they do, they don't do, his strategy when they employ, my playing style, all of that.
So that was given to him, you know, right? So he has that information, right? But the players that he's looking at now is also new players. So Meron might say, listen, because he consults with his assistant, he might say, look at this player, right? But he's also looking at players overseas, and he's also developing that database, right, with that dossier of players. So we do have a list of players that we're looking at different stages, also at different stages of getting citizenship, for example, right? So that is there. And if you look, you'll see, for example, that in the last game, right, you'll see how Sifa Kahim was introduced into the game, and the game really took a turn, I think, when they came on in terms of attacking. Right? You'll see how Anderson was introduced into the team, right? So he is developing that, and one of the things that is actually good is that I think the team right now, when you look at it, has a little more depth. When we went away, when we played on the turf, I think it was in Honduras, Mikel Antonio and Casey Palmer didn't play.
Yeah, he held out some players because the turf wasn't something
right.
But
we had a strong enough team to win.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But Dennis, here's a question for you, Dennis, which is my disappointment is this. The coach said in his first press conference, I'm not going to paraphrase him, but in general, just says that he worked with Rudolph during the pandemic on the whole talent development scheme we're trying to put in place, right? My expectation is, with his experience, he's worked for numerous clubs, the highest level of the organization, he would be involved in the youth development program to help the JFF in terms of how to move the program along. So I was extremely disappointed that he's leaving in each window. He's not there on the ground helping you guys to say, you know what? Giving you feedback, giving you perspective, understand how FIFA work, understand how this should be done, understand what's done at these great academies he's worked on to help you guys leverage that to inform the program to get it better. I never understood that.
All right. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. Now, what I would say to you is that is something I think is in a work in progress to happen. But I think the focus of the coach over the past few months has really been to put a squad together that is a deep squad with the talent that we need. Because as you realize, as you said, we're not scoring. We have to fix that.
I have all the stats. It's ugly.
Yeah,
they're ugly.
Fix that.
Yeah.
Well,
it's ugly.
We definitely have to fix that because we're not scoring. And you could be the greatest team in the world if you don't score. I mean, one of the most prolific strikers in the world, right, a while back, was one of the ugliest players I ever see when he touched the ball. It was Gary Lineker.
Yeah, but Gary was a fox in the box, right?
Yeah.
So Gary was a goal scorer. Yeah.
He just scored.
Yes.
So
he put the ball in there.
He didn't have the flair and all of that. But when it comes to scoring, he scored. And that's why I said that, irrespective of how good your team is, if you're not scoring, you can't win games. If you don't win games, you can't get points.
So I won't ask the question in this field, but I think you have to do a better job of recruiting. I know what the coach is trying to do and all that, but the coach made a statement, which I take offense to. Yeah. He said, players who have a certain age, say 24, the right thing for them to do is play for England. And my view is this. That's not his decision to make. Because I've said he's conflicted because he's English. Now, this is not cause aspersion on the coach, but that's how I view it, which is this. Let the player decide where he wants to play. You don't say it's the right thing for them to play there. Because I can tell you in the U.S., Mexico and the U.S. are fighting for players every single day. Yeah. And they're born in the U.S. and they're Mexican heritage. Mm-hmm. What's your view on that?
Well, I think that, everyone should be welcome. At the end of the day, as I always tell the coaches, whichever one it is, I say, listen, it's your game, The only thing I demand from you as administration is that you win.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you, because I can't tell you that you must do this and then say, why you never win? The only consideration I have from administration is that you win. Because if you don't win, the rankings go down. If the rankings go down, then
they're all connected, right? They're all interlinked, and performance and outcomes which are positive are an imperative for the program to be successful.
Yeah.
Right? Let's take a step back. Long-term challenges for the JFF. What are some of the most pressing challenges facing the JFF, both operationally and strategically?
The most challenging issue I think we have is one of culture, not just within the JFF, but the culture in Jamaica.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I do not think that we are at the level yet where we have sustainable professionalism, right, as a country. And I think that unless we change the culture of football administration and way we manage in the country, then we're not going to get anywhere sustainably. So I would say that's the most important thing, because as you know, Kranky, as a professional, culture and attitude is what defines an organization.
Yep.
If you don't have that, you could have all the money in the world, right?
Right.
You're just gonna have poor results with a lot of money.
Right? But yeah, Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. But here's the question, though. Culture is hard to change.
It's hard to change. And that's why I said that what we need to do, and that's why one of the first things I do when I go in any organization is I look at the people and who are the key persons. The key persons, you work on them to change the culture. And what we had to do is change the culture of governance, financial governance at JFF. Because that's the main thing that's going to drive everything. Right? I think
but if JFF is the body, Dennis, you go change the culture unless you go in there go change the culture, because some of them have been there for donkey years. How is it choice? And people who are set in their ways, Dennis, as you know, are hard to change. Yeah,
man, it's hard. But I think that what happens is that once you get certain people in place, leadership, that you change in the culture, one by one, it will eventually change. It takes a while, Culture is something that is the most beneficial thing when it's working. It's the most destructive thing when it's not working, and it's the most difficult thing to change.
Well, you inferred about the culture earlier, because you said earlier in the program that people were coming to work after 11 a.m., which I find amazing, right? That's a cultural thing, which it gets in place, it gets set up, it's institutionalized, and it becomes the norm.
Yeah. So the culture, I think, the culture of how we approach things, I think, is the most important thing. And that means that you have to think, when you're thinking, you have to think governance, financial governance, corporate governance. You have to think objectives and strategy.
Yep.
That's what you have to think. And we need to get there. And this is why we're doing a lot of the training things also. So when you look like, I speak about an organization like a Mount Pleasant, right? And how they're set up. I speak about an organization like a Cavaliers, right? And how they're set up and an Arnett, right? That is culture. So the footballing culture and the administrative culture that you have there is what determines your success. The other thing that we have, though, is financial. We're always going to have financial challenges, because what we want to do as a country, we will never have enough money, because the problem that Jamaica finds itself in is that we're a victim of our own success. We're such a successful nation in terms of football and sports, right? That we challenge the big countries, but we don't have the resources like the big countries, right?
But don't you have examples of that where countries like Uruguay do really well, small population, they export a lot of players? And I should have asked this question before, actually, which is part of your development program has to be exportation of players, right?
Agreed. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And of course, are Uruguayan, so they do have that. But how many people in Uruguay? I mean, and when you talk about their development, their infrastructure development already, right? So we have an infrastructure challenge, right? So when I talk about resources, I talk about infrastructure too, right? That's a huge problem for us, and we're not going to be able to move sports forward unless we have the infrastructure, unless we have the resources. We have to be able to not just pay players well, we have to be able to pay the administrators well, right? Or else we're not going to attract the best administrators,
Yeah. So is there a need then? Because there's some people who have money, they don't know if to do with it, Like in the Middle East and even China trying to get influence. So how do we build relationship with some of those organizations, some of those countries, some of those bodies, to have mutually beneficial situation where we can leverage off their resources and we can provide whatever it is that we need to provide, intangible, whatever we need to provide to them. So it's a mutually beneficial situation.
All right. So we had that discussion about how we can do that. The government of Jamaica, for example, recently had an exchange program with China where we sent some girls overseas, right, to do some, and coaches to do some training there. So we can, and the Chinese government paid for that. Of course, we're looking at FAs that we can partner with, to see how we can get some benefit. As we develop our teams also, we actually become more attractive and people pay for us to go there. So we've had countries that have paid for Jamaica to come there. Well, I've been approached, for example, by persons who want to put on games like in New York and so, about how much will it cost to bring up a team, right?
Okay.
So we're trying to put that in place now. We will not get to be attractive unless we show people that we're serious about our governance also, right? So where we are now, we have to get out of our restricted funding in terms of FIFA. We have to get our finances right. We have to show proper governance, because nobody is going to want to come and invest in us, right, if we don't show that we have the discipline to maintain all of that. So we're building.
I'll put it more bluntly, actually. People have trust issues, right? Yeah. When it comes to these things. So you have to create that trust.
We have to create that trust. And as you see, Kranky, I mean, over the past few weeks, we've had the fan clubs come on and say, we want to work with you because we see changes happening.
Right. Yeah.
We've had different marketing. So it has been, it's changing for us. When I can get 3 fan clubs out of the US coming and saying, hey, we want to do this for you, right? We want to live stream your game. And then one of the guys who's on the call from Canada said, hey, what about Canada? We want to get involved too. And then only today, someone was saying, I want to be a part of the support group, right? That is the trust that we're building, right? So I think that with developing these partnerships by virtue of our behavior, we will get there. And, people, one of the things I find about people, Kranky, and the different things that I've done, is that when things are bad in a place, right? People are not around. As things start get a little better, a lot of people come around.
You mean Jamaicans? We are bandwagons.
Why this don't happen? Yeah, they say why this don't happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're just building it, and they say why it don't happen. I expected this to happen long time. It just don't happen like that. If you have an organization or a country, right, as we saw with Jamaica, that we had high debt for a very long time, it's going to take a while to get out of it. Yeah,
right? and it can be very difficult if you're not generating the revenues to pay down the debt. So that makes it tough, right? Yeah.
So it's a very difficult balancing act, and I give kudos, a lot of credit to my staff, because where we are today is a testament to the work that has been done by the staff. I must tell you, I'm heartened when I have people coming to me and say, boy, Mr. Chung, I think that if we do this, we can be better, and constantly coming up with ideas and initiatives to improve our process. Or, if we approach that company, I think we can get some money,
Right. So has there been engagement? Because there's been a query by audiences in different forums around, is the business community now supportive of the football? Because when Hogrimson came, he was a little bit surprised when he go past some of those golf courses about how immaculate those fields were, those golf courses were. And he said, "What? How come the football fields have a similar, right? Similar setup?"
So yes, we see more and more people coming on and saying, like with the games, we want to be a part of the game. How much money does it cost to be a part of the game, right? We see more and more people coming on and saying, hey, we want a long-term sponsorship to the end, to World Cup, right?
Right.
Even people from overseas, I'm having some discussions with the marketing people from overseas now. They are advanced. I actually have one of the supporters who called me and said, listen, I am going to get a marketing guy to come down here and help you, right? No cost, pro bono. The only thing we want is to get back our costs from the proceeds. The JFF not putting up anything From the proceeds we'll make, we'll get back the cost, and everything else is yours. All right? So we have more and more people coming on because, I mean, the truth is that, you know, and people used to curse corporate people before and say, boy, they don't come on and help us. But corporate people are in this business for themselves, you know.
You have to make money. It's not free.
If your product is not attractive, you're not going to get them. So what we had to do is make the product attractive. We had to carry the 17,000 people into the stadium. We had to ensure that our governance issues were dealt with. We had to ensure that.
Are you allowed to wear merch? Are you allowed to wear labels with sponsors on the apparels?
Not on the Adidas apparel. No.
So only Adidas. If they're not competition for Adidas. So if they're not footwear company like Nike, can't you wear like Dennis and Geddes on it or whatever it is on your apparel?
If I'm not in a competitive situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So like
I think that should be explored, right? I think that should be explored.
Yeah, man. So all that is being looked at. So the guy we work with in that did the Adidas contract for us, Marlon, he is actually working on that. So we're looking at all of those things. But as I said, Kranky, I mean, when you look at the conversation that we're having 2 years ago is different from what we're having now.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. So everybody says because of management and Simon, but keep going. You're in the background.
Yeah, but the conversation that we're having now is different.
Yes.
I know that
because you never listen to me with the girls. I should have a better conversation earlier. You know, me and you go back and forth with this back and forth. You give you a hard time. But no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Which is I've said this numerous times. Which is, you know, when you have resources, it fixes a lot of problems. But as you're saying, you also have to change culture, change the organization, change perspective, change mindset to make it sustainable.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the culture. We're trying to change the mindset. So I'm pretty much happy with where we are because I know where we're coming from. I know that a year and a half ago, you know, my accountant was pulling the hair out of her head because so many people are calling her. Boy, when we're going to get a payment? When we're going to get a payment? Right now, when people call her, she said, "Oh, let me send you the advice that I paid it on."
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I heard one of Ravel's story, but yeah. No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So we're making progress, and I must tell you, people like you, Manning's man, and so who used to curse us. I mean,
I've never cursed you. I've always just praised you guys. I never curse you.
Yeah. So the criticism was good because I used to take all of that, and you know, even those days, I never run from an interview. I would come.
That is true. That is true.
And would go back and would implement it, right? Because good things come out of it. Because what I do, I don't look at. I don't say, boy, no, this person saying so, so I'm not going to listen to him. No, there is a message in there, and we take the criticism. We'd go back to the drawing board. I discuss with the president. Boy, we need to do so and so and so and so.
Right.
And I think that the changes that we've made, they've started a ball rolling themselves. Right.
Okay.
And we're here now where we're looking at, we're saying, well, you know, we basically eliminate tax liability. We almost eliminate the deficit, almost at a 1-to-1 current ratio. Right. We're paying our taxes on time. We have a tax compliance certificate. Those were results of a lot of little things that we did, including a lot of the things that we used to talk about on the YouTube programs. You know what I mean?
So here's my last series of questions, and that's around the relationship with PICA and the ability to have what the coach called, which I don't like, heritage players naturalized. You know, people hear the names being dropped even by the president, and then they're not hearing anything happening.
No, man, very good relationship with PICA. If there's a delay, many times, not because of PICA, right?
Okay.
It's because maybe, you know, a long time ago, when people were going to England, for example, Kranky, a lot of people used to have 2 and 3 birth certificates, you know. And people are different than them thing there. You know?
Three people ago. 3 people ago.
Right? So you find that people have 2 birth certificates, right? You find that somebody was born last month, and because they were registered till 2 months after. That's the day that they register us, but for their whole life, they're using the month that they were born in.
I have friends going through that right now, actually. So I know how that is. Yes.
I have an uncle, right? That for up to when he was about 50 or a little less, we always knew him as Calvin. When he was 50, he found out that the C wasn't registered and his real name is Calvin.
Those stories are very prominent.
Right. Those are some of the things that we face, but the support from PICA, the support from the Ministry of Sports, right? Some ladies in there, Napier, Ison, this support from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been tremendous. You know, whatever we want, they support us, right?
So Catherine asked a question about DNA tests, right? Which I think is a very good question, because the US does it for paternity when people are supposed to come here. And he's basically saying, look, sometimes, as you're just saying, these things are so complicated. Let's see if the DNA thing link up.
Yeah, but
as another means work with PICA to get to a good place.
That's true, you know, but guess what happened? They have to have the paperwork in place.
Yeah.
If they don't have the paperwork in place, you know, we must understand, and people have come to already and say, boy, PICA can't just do this. We say, no, we have to follow the process. We're a country of law and order, right? So we're not.
It's a fair point. Is there a VIP route though for these players? Is there a VIP route?
Yeah, man. Once we call PICA, they're gonna help us. They help us quickly. You know, once we have everything. But
guys, my question though, because you know, for certain skill set that you have in certain countries, you get an accelerated route, right? You don't go to normal. Because I went through the process. It took me 4 months. It took me 4 months to get mine.
No, man. We don't have that problem. That's what I'm saying. Okay. We have a direct line with PICA, right? We have a direct line with the Ministry of Sports and Foreign Affairs. They'll help us with it. So we don't have that issue. It's just that the issues that we have most of the time is documentation.
Right.
You know? A man know himself as Bob all in life and him really registered as Peter.
Yeah, that's true. So let's conclude by saying, I know you say you have 40 minutes, and first of all, is this people. I appreciate Dennis being here. Dennis doesn't hide when I ask him for interviews because I'm such a nice guy. But anyway, what you wanted the people to know before you leave today? What is it that you want to communicate to the audience? Who is quite a bit of people are here, and it will get much more traction as go along. What do you want to tell them? And how can we keep the dialogue afloat to keep them readily informed?
Yeah, what I want to say to people is, listen, JFF is changing this year. And as I said at the start, Kranky, when I just came to JFF, I said, don't judge me on what I say. Judge me on the output that we get.
Right.
And I know that it was going to be a while to get there. I know that people are impatient. But I think that JFF is moving in the right direction. And what we want is for people to not stop criticizing us, because criticism is good. If everybody agreed, the wheel wouldn't be round today. It would still be square, right? We of course need to have, as I always say, when we criticize, be respectful and let it be positive. But criticize, let's keep the dialogue going. Come out and support your teams also. We want to see you support when the Reggae Boyz are playing. Support the Reggae Boyz. We're going to start the streaming of the games also. Right?
Streaming, you mean on YouTube?
Yeah, man. For the friendlies, though, we're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. So can YouTubers show them, or is it just exclusively with JFF? Can us YouTubers get access to show those games on our channels?
Yeah, man. We're working on that. So that's a deal we're working on right now.
Because you know, I say this to you, Dennis. Sorry to cut you, Dennis. We get enough beating, Dennis. Us YouTubers, we get enough beating, especially from JFF, you know, enough beating. You know. And you know, we all want the same thing.
We all want the same thing, and that's why I say that we don't run from. I certainly don't run from criticism. You know, right? I'll take the criticism, right? But we all have the same objective. We want Jamaica to the better, right? And when we mess up, tell us that we mess up. And say, guys, you mess up. This is what you need to do. When we do well also, tell us that we do well and say you're doing a good job. Continue doing that, right?
Right.
So that's all I want. And at the end of the day, the fans need to be satisfied. We need to make sure that the fans are satisfied, that they feel that I don't expect that somebody's going to come and buy a grandstand ticket and be disappointed, right? That's why I said to the coaches, listen, I don't care where you want to win.
Right.
Right? Because that's what the fans want. That's what we want. Right? So we just saying, support us, right? Support us with criticisms, support us also with coming and watching. And we're trying, as you can see, we're trying to bring the players closer to everybody because we have some things online with them. We're taking them around to like children's home.
Dennis, we got to do much more than that, Dennis. There's a view that because a number of the players are from overseas, even some of the ones who have migrated, the affiliation and association and engagement and proximity with the fans create that disconnect. So the question,
so we're trying to improve that. No, we're putting a program in place to improve that. And we started by, you say on social media, for example, players telling you about themselves, right?
Okay.
Even the interaction at the games, right? You'll see that the interaction with the fans at the games, those things are deliberate strategies to ensure that the players get closer, to the fan base, because that's what we want to do. We talk about in UK, a lot of them are from UK. Can we, for example, start a fan base program in the UK so that players can get close to them there?
I think that's a great idea, actually. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
So that's what we want to do, because we've engaged some people like Bibi Gardner, for example, who lives in the UK, is helping us with organizing a lot of things. We're bringing in some past players to help us. Altamont Butler, as you see, right? So we're trying to bring in more and more players. And I think that we're making some progress. As I said, we know that we have a responsibility to deliver, and we just want the fans to support us. When we do wrong, tell us that we do wrong. But as I said, respectfully. Right?
Yeah, and look, Dennis, I appreciate you coming on. You're the second person on JFF I've entertained. You're my third interview. I think I had someone from Trinidad, technical director, the past technical director, and Rudolph. And as I tell all of them before they leave, you've been the best of all the guests. So, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on. Really good conversation. I know I'm gonna get beaten because some people, I didn't ask other people in the chat question. A few of them I asked, but I appreciate everyone being here. And Dennis, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And you commit to come back.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
Whenever, you know what? Whenever you feel like coming back, it's open. Yeah. Put it that way.
Yeah, man. No problem, Kranky.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
all right, let's go.
Yeah, man.
All right, thanks. So, people, that was Dennis Chung, the General Secretary of the JFF. We know me get enough beaten. Can I say, Kranky, ask about this? I think I've asked all your questions, but you may not realize it. And sometimes I move on because we don't want to delay the conversation. Even about the coach. You hear him saying talk to the coach all the time with speed, talk to the coach, and the coach will do some things. And you and I know that we're not totally comfortable, right? But sometimes when in this interview, you guys got to move on. You can't sit down and dwell on something 24/7. It kills the flow of the conversation. But let me say this. First of all, I appreciate each of you being here. I have to close on the program soon because I have a long drive tomorrow. As I said, I'm going to the game in St. Louis, and I'm doing it by car, but I'm doing a detour first to get there. So I may not be doing any streaming for a while because I'm leaving tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. I mean, I have to take the other half because I can't see drive at night no more. You get more seasoned. But I mean, see people like Football Guru agree with it. Football Guru now beat me. That's amazing, actually. A Football Guru is not here, not beat me. But if you guys want to call, anybody want to call in? I'll spend a few more minutes before I close down. If you want to call into the number, I can put the number up and talk. You can critique me about what I didn't do. I thought Dennis was good, actually. I thought there was a lot that we covered in terms of the youth development program, sponsorship, the teams, the strategy. I thought we went through a lot of different things that we needed to cover that informs the direction of travel. My whole objective of this discussion was to talk about the JFF, what they're doing, how they're doing it, where they are, where they're going. And also what's important is how can we as fans, as supporters, as stakeholders help, right? And have him come back and give us updates. Because I think we want more transparency about how the JFF operates, about what it does. What I was pleased about, Claudine, I'm trying to bring information out, Claudine. Where have you hit me for? I think it's important for us to get that information. Because I said to Dennis, I think trust is an imperative. And people now give them money unless them trust you, right? Because them feel the money be used for the intended purposes. So that has to be something that we're getting from them, we're seeing. I'm glad he said the FIFA restrictions that's been in place should be lifted didn't have a defined date, but soon, because he basically said that the procurement issue was the main reason why it hasn't been lifted. And if they fix that, hopefully that's the case, because I think we're leaving a lot of money on the table from FIFA. Trinidad have the same problem to people. Seems like a number of Caribbean countries have the same problem. But we just want what's best for the program. And I'm glad Dennis said this also, which is we should give them their flowers when their flowers are deserved, but we shouldn't be afraid, this is my words, of criticizing. And criticism is not just about being negative. It's about identifying deficiencies, challenging issues, and providing at the same time solutions to help remediate those situations. Right? You can't just tell somebody something wrong and not give them no idea how to fix it. That's not a good thing. Dre said, what the coach do on his downtime? You don't hear the man say the coach talk to the JFF and him, people in JFF 24/7. He has list of players. He's identifying players. Look, we don't really know the totality of that, right? I think there's some space there to be addressed. And he also didn't disagree about the coach being able to help with the enhancement, improvement, support, and thought process around the youth development program. Because that's a big program with can really help Jamaica football and can help supply kids who are progressing through the system to the national team, which is the ultimate goal, both for women and men. Right? Both for women and men. That's very, very important, people. That we just not come here and criticize and not providing meaningful suggestions and views to help inform the program and get the program in the right direction. Because here's my view on this. And Dennis mentioned some things that people may not walk away with. He sort of mentioned every organization he goes to, they had some trust challenges. I don't call them, even could go as far as saying, not to defame anyone, corruption type challenges, which he's trying to work and rectify, right? And even though Dennis didn't say this, I must say it, that seemed to be pervasive. And what he also focused on, which I think is key, is how do we change culture? Okay, if the culture is that everybody just get fit and piece of the pie, then you will never make progress. The culture has to be about the collective. We do work for each other. We get incentivized. We achieve incentive goals, and we contribute to the larger pool. That has to be the view, actually, right? And I think us, wherever we are in the world, as a collective, we are much stronger than if we are divided. And if we all come together, we're all football stakeholders, want to help the football in any way, shape, or form, whether it's verbally, whether it's financially, whether it's, tangible, intangible, whatever way we can, we should all be, and that doesn't mean just giving them flowers. We all should try to work to help the program progress, get better, improve. Ultimately, the short-term goal is 2026. The long-term goal has to be a very sustainable program, which we're seeing material benefits being derived from the program, and the football is improving material. And hopefully, as sports normally is in some countries, sports is a catalyst for an improvement of the society at large. Why? Claudia, even not to put up a comment, Claudia, not to forget to nobody. People put the restriction on a long time. We had discussion years about this. The restriction was about how the JFF spends its money. A lot of time in the JFF, people used to travel. The whole board used to travel to games, it seemed like, which is not prudent. They don't need to go to games. And they would travel at a certain class. Those things came out way back when. We used to have this discussion years ago, right? Bunch of people would go to games in the US. They'd all fly business class or first class. Money is being spent, and it wasn't being spent prudently. If you go watch the JFF now, because I was in Dallas when they were there, I think Ricketts was there. They didn't have a ton of officers or board members who were at the games. They have changed some of that. So the change, which sometimes have to be gradual, they can't be holistic. They create havoc when you do that. The changes are made and made in a meaningful way and made with the right speed, you can get to a good place. And that trust issue will get better. And we always then want to contribute to the improvement program. Javari, yes. I'm just going to say that in my own way. Romaine keeps asking if I'm okay. Romaine, my life will be the same tomorrow because Kamal lost. It won't change. But I have a larger view of life, which is this, which is evil shouldn't prevail. And sometimes evil prevail. And sometimes evil prevail long term, not the short term. So yesterday wasn't a good day, but today's a better day. I thought Chung was good. I had enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did too. I must sign off. I got to pack my bags, pack my suitcases to go on the road. And if you're gonna be in St. Louis, I will see you there because I'm gonna spend at least a few days there before the game. Yeah, yes. Trump win and we're going down there. That's a pretty. Yes, that's obvious. Thank you, Devon. I appreciate the compliment, sir. See, can't just give me beaten. Give me flowers sometime. Can't just give me beaten, right? But no, I appreciate Dennis coming on. And Rudolph, if you're out there, you can come back, Rudolph, because I know you're mad at me. I call you out for certain things. But Rudolph, I have to call you out. If you're right, I have to call you out. So Rudolph, you can come back. You're open invitation, just like Dennis does. Good evening.
Good evening, Kranky. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Who am I speaking to?
It's Determined.
Determined with a DT, not DE. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir.
What do you have to say, Determined?
No, I think you covered a lot of questions that the fans wanted to ask. And this is a different side of and first of all, before I go there, and I think you did a good job. It was very in-depth. You kept the conversation going. You didn't try to hold up the conversation, even if you didn't get the answer that you wanted. So the conversation was good. It was a free-flowing conversation. As far as on Chung's side, this is my first time I actually see a different side of him and a different side of JFF. It's a little bit more, you can digest some of the things that he's saying. He wasn't too pompous. He wasn't too arrogant. He admitted to a lot of shortcomings, and he also had solutions on how to solve it.
Yeah.
And this is my first time seeing this, and I'm proud of him coming out of his shell and admitting to certain things, and was able to warm up a little bit so people can accept him and and accept the conversation that he's given. So I think this is a turn. He's turning the right pages,
Now, I appreciate the comments, and that's the goal, right? We don't all come on here just to beat. Cause I think that beat is kind of outdated. The goal is to get information and get information to the public, and then we can all assess it and digest it. We may not all be comfortable with all the answers. We may think I should be more inquisitive and more penetrative with my questions, but sometimes I try to pivot and move ahead because you want to get to some place, not just stuck in the rut when you're doing interviews, right? So, and I think as you're saying, he did a good job of trying to not only talk about what's good, talk about what needs to be done, right? The whole infrastructure thing is a big deal. And I'm glad to see the Minister of Sports is involved. Hopefully it's not just talk because it's election time. Hopefully something materialized from that discussion about improving the stadium because it needs a lot of work. It's just not up to par, actually.
Correct. And that's what I wanted to hear from him, because if you really look at it, the projection of the team is really advancing, and the more you advance, is the more revenue you bring in. And if you're smart enough, these top caliber players that we're bringing in, we can market them and also make money, right?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to hear what's next instead of a short-term plan. I really wanted to see what was the long-term plan.
Okay.
And now with him, saying what the long-term plan is, I hope we don't forget about what he said, but actually let it register, let it sit, give it time to manifest. And if it's not manifesting, that's when you can tackle him on it and hold him accountable. because we have a tendency of forgetting stuff and not holding.
No. These things are recorded. When you're on YouTube, these things are. We may not actually. We can always go back to the tapes and pull up what was said. That's a great thing about these forums. Unless YouTube goes down and doesn't have it in storage, we have it, right? So yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm glad he admitted to it, and I'm glad he laid out a plan, and that's what I wanted to hear. I just didn't want to hear the short-term fluff, but an actual plan on make it expanding this thing, because we have the talent. All we need is the little, infrastructure, the technical ability, and I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm kind of proud to see where this thing is going compared to 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I remember when I've been on YouTube now for about 5. I think I came in just before COVID or during COVID, and we used to have these very difficult discussions with the JFF about a number of different things. And I've said this before, which is, the JFF is in a really good place now compared to where it was previously. And a good example, I don't want to be Trinidad, but Trinidad is having money problems, real money problems. And when you don't have money, just think about your personal life. You don't have money, it's tough, right? You can't make decisions. You can't make progress. But if you get money and you spend it prudently and wisely and you have controls and you're fiscally responsible, surprise how much you can stretch and get you to a good place. So Dennis coming in with his own financial background, because as he said, he's a CPA and that's what he's done all his life. He's going to be very fiscally responsible and focus on the money and make sure it's spent the right way and spent for the right things and hold people accountable. And if that's the case, then it will materially change how they operate.
And I agree with you, Kranky, but what I don't like to hear is I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for the past 14 years.
Right.
And I don't like to hear the when you're a business owner, the first thing, especially when you have assets, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like, I don't have money, right? You have assets,
right?
That you can use it as leverage, right? In any conversation, you have a lot of quality players coming in. It's up to you now as the chief financier to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
It gets me nervous when you, the head, come out and say, I don't have money, when I look at all your assets and I'm putting it in line. You should be able to sell those assets or bring it in a point where you can use it as leverage, meet this business as far as companies and try to come up with a deal, right? So I don't like to hear that. It's very uncomfortable.
Well, it's tough though when your asset is a football team and it's not your football team, meaning the club own the players. You get them for a short period to leverage them, and they don't have very physical assets, right? Now they have a lot of cash in the bank, or a lot of inventory in terms of product, or they have a lot of assets like land and field and buildings that they probably could leverage for funding purposes. So it's tough. But as you're saying, you got to think about creatively. How do I use whatever assets I have, temporary or permanent, to help fund my activities, inclusive of how do I leverage those players to generate revenues, which is through tournaments, but is there other means to do so to generate it, right? He just mentioned 5 sources of revenues, right? And they're trying to, in those 5 sources, in the sponsorship area, generate more revenues from different sponsors. So let's see 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, if they have somehow being able to actualize those revenue streams, bring them on board and help fund the program.
I agree. I mean, and as I said, the team is in a good space. And as far as what's going on, all I can do is look at the numbers and look at, on paper, the players that we have. And I think once the team is winning, you have more leverage where you can do a lot more.
Yeah.
Right? So
yes.
I have to look out in the future. I don't like to as I said, when you say these kind of things, me as a business owner, it's hard for me to come in and invest when you, as a chief financier, is saying that I'm broke, basically. I don't want to hear that. That's not what I want to hear.
Yeah, and look, I think what people don't also understand is that the product of the JFF and how it operates will be more attractive to potential players at a certain level if they believe the infrastructure, the organization, how they're going to be treated is going to work if they join, right? If they join the organization. So if you're trying to pursue a player like Kyle Walker-Peters, some player you believe can help the program grow and help us in competition and to win, if the communication they're getting from others who are in the program is that, yes, you want to be there everything works, it'll be much more of an attractive, right, product for them versus you hear what Ravel says, you hear what Curtis says, who used to be here. A number of English-based players who come here say the organization is not there. I haven't heard that organization issue in the last, I'm going to say 2 years, frankly, since Manning's man got involved, since Simon got involved, but also since Chung, a little bit late, got involved also. A lot of those things are now not as prominent. I'm not sure if they're there or not, and it's not being heard, but I haven't heard them, which says a lot about the leadership that's been put in place.
And I agree, Kranky, because nobody wants to be associated to a losing team, right? When a team is winning, everybody wants to be a part of it. When a team looks attractive, everybody wants to be a part of it. Yes. So that's his job to figure it out, right? It's not my job. Like, you have a job to make it happen, and that's just how I look at it. And it's kind of hard, and it sounds hard and harsh when you say it like that, but it is what it is. I mean, that's your job, right?
Yep, agreed.
And and that's why we hired you. So figure it out.
Yep.
Right.
Totally agree.
And that's just it. But anyway, Kranky.
Yeah, man.
You keep doing a good job. I appreciate you, man. You're a breath of fresh air. You, JD, JT, Ryan, man, y'all are doing an outstanding job.
All right. Thanks. Determined. Appreciate it, man. And good luck with your business. Good luck with your business.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bless up. All right, bless up. Mm-hmm. All right, people, I'm going to close the program down. I know I almost 8:30 already. 6 o'clock in the morning. I've got some sleep. I'm not done pack yet. So let me just say this. First of all, thanks for being here. If you haven't subscribed before, please do so, both to my Balanced View and to my Kranky Live channel. I'm trying to get Balanced View to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 viewing hours so that I can monetize the channel and I can start doing stuff other than sports on the channel because I have a lot of different interests. Secondly, hit the like button, subscribe, and I would probably do a show. I'm not sure when, because when I get to my destination, probably take about 2 days to go to Atlanta. Come here, enough driving. But I appreciate you being here, people. All right? Let me just look up any last comments. Problem or industry on that wholesale name. Yeah, I think that needs to be done, actually. I see you mentioned that before on Warren Repster, which is even the players who leave Jamaica like Bailey early, even though he's a known commodity, or other players, both women and men, you need to get them into the environments of people who are not only a combination of Jamaica and diaspora. No, flying now go on in Icarus. I like fly. They fly unless if I not leave the US, I not fly that much nowadays. If I not leave the US, I not go on a plane. I drive my car. So that becomes a challenge because to go to St. Louis from New York via Atlanta is 21 hours on the road. So if you hear me asleep, you know that go. Good night, Romain. Manchester now come back no way. Because Jamaica no go back. So we don't talk about a comeback. They're not going away. But we are struggling as Arsenal. I'm not going to talk about Arsenal today, people. Luckily, I had this interview with Chung, so I had to spend some time getting ready for the interview because Arsenal is just a waste and Arteta is a waste. But thanks for being here. Have a good evening. I'm going to play my outro, Kranky Live, and I'll try to do maybe a show or two next week. All right, everyone? Have a good night and peace out. Thanks. Kranky Life is the best to be now. For the best sports talk and it's free, yo. Kranky Life will be your guiding light by keeping you informed both day and night. Kranky Life, kill them. Kranky Life, heed them. Kranky Life, want them. Kranky Life. From the courts to the field, we'll never lose because Kranky has the hottest news. With expert analysis, we break it down. Our in-depth coverage is best in town. Kranky Life, kill them. Kranky Life, heed them. Kranky Life, want them. Kranky Life. Kranky Life, where the sports is spicy and where we keep the discussion lively. Kranky Life, get to know the name because Kranky analysis is never lame. Kranky Life, give me my Kranky Life. I want my Kranky Life. Must have my Kranky Life. Whether it's football or track and field, you know Kranky is at the wheel. So join the journey through victory and defeat and subscribe and don't miss a beat of Kranky Life. Kill them, Kranky Life. Heed them, Kranky Life. Want them, Kranky Life. If you're from England or USA, from Kingston or Bombay, from Kenya or Canada, Lagos or Havana. Visit Kranky Live, tune into Kranky Live, like up Kranky Live, subscribe to Kranky Live. Kranky Live coming to you on weekdays, Kranky Live sometimes on Sundays. Pull up a chair and take a seat because Kranky will always bring the heat. Kranky Live, me say fi tell them Kranky Live, me say fi eat them Kranky Live. On them Kranky Live, Kranky Live will be around. Kranky Live is the best in town. Me say fi eat them, me say fi want them. Me say fi eat them, want them, eat them, want them. Kranky Live, Kranky Live. Eat them, want them, eat them, want them. Kranky Live, Kranky Live. Eat them, want them, eat them, want them, eat them, want them. Kranky Live. Kranky Live, Kranky. Eat them, want them, eat them, want them, eat, want, eat them.